Back in with this meeting.
Can everyone hear me?
Loud and clear.
Beautiful. Good morning, everyone.
All right, Mr. Chair, we're ready when you are.
We're just waiting for two more members that haven't joined. Neil and Sophia seem to be missing.
Yeah, they're seeming to have login problems. We're having them join us as attendee, and we'll bump them over when they get into the meeting.
Okay, so Paul, we just can't start until we have quorum. So once Danny appears, then we can start with YouTube.
Sorry, I was on mute. Who are the other two members today?
Neil and Sophia.
Thank you.
They're having trouble getting
Always
in,
good.
so we're going to try to.
Okay, I can at least do
troubleshoot that.
the remarks with the I don't need quorum for that, right? I'm just looking for my reading glasses. Oh well. I'll make do with these. Okay, let me know when to start.
Go ahead.
Okay, good morning. During a declared emergency, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and in-person attendance limitations. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by their computer, a phone, or a tablet app, or by telephone. All participants will automatically be muted on entry, and when your item is called, you will be each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members are participating by video. Panel members participating today are Danny Bellissimo, Laura Alderson, Neil Palmer, and Sophia Ruddick. I am Michael Clark, and I am the panel chair. I am also participating virtually. All registered participants will be participating by audio only. We also ask you mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaws that apply to the property, permissions to alter or extend lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to sever properties, create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wishes to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and your email address, because Committee of Adjustment, and in the event of an appeal, the TLAB will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee rendered here today, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, or in some limited circumstances to local planning, to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee, and the hearing procedure will be as follows. I'll call each item in the order listed, the agenda, first before we do some preliminary housekeeping matters and clear deferrals from the agenda and deal with the deferral requests on the planning memo. We'll then go through the agenda items in order. And in making your submissions, where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to address the committee. The committee may ask questions and or take the matter into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and the clock will be visible and show when the deputant reaches the 5-minute mark. At that point, we'll ask you to wrap up. When addressing the committee, please start off by clearly stating your name and address, and especially in the virtual world, it's important to know who's speaking. And I will also, yes, please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. We deal with planning issues here. That's it. The applicant or agent will proceed first and makes their presentation to committee on a contested matter. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions made to proposals made at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if being substantially revised in order to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application have been informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they finish their presentations. And when all speakers have finished, the applicant or agent is given an opportunity to rebut only those issues and answer those questions raised by the speakers, but not to introduce new information at that time. And that will then mark the end of the discussion. The matter is then taken into the committee for a decision. Some preliminary matters. I believe we have the minutes of one hearing to approve today. Madam Secretary Treasurer.
Yes, for April 21st.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve those minutes, please?
I so move.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. Seconded by Mr. Bellissimo. Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Minutes are approved. Do any of the members or staff have any declarations of interest to declare with respect to any of the matters before us on this morning's agenda? Okay, if none, let's, I guess we can start. We're looking at the...
Mr. Chair, if I may, for one quick moment, I have an unidentified call-in user. I'd like to quickly confirm what their interest is in the meeting. Do you think I could do that real quick?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Call-in user 416-614. You're unmuted. I just want to confirm what you're here to speak for. I don't have your phone number on my list of attendees. Again, it's 416-614, the first 6 numbers. Go ahead. You're unmuted.
It's Josie. I tried to connect with my computer earlier, and the voice check just wasn't working.
Dorothy. Okay, Dorothy.
Josie.
Thank you. So,
No,
oh,
Josie.
Sophie. Oh, okay. Okay, give you one moment then.
Josie, 20 Shadwick.
I think she said Josie with a J.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. I'll have it noted on my end, so we'll call upon them when it's okay, when it's time to go.
Okay, so you've now identified who's on the line, so we can proceed. Okay, so we're going to go through the planning memo indicating certain items to be deferred. In certain cases, we've also received correspondence from the applicant echoing that request for deferral. So, and in other cases, we may hear from applicants that they're not in favor of the decision of the deferral. And so let's just see. The first item is item number 4, 78 GRACEFIELD Avenue. It's for a detached dwelling with an attached garage with 7 variances. Won't give a further introduction other to say that the planning was recommending deferral, or in the event of not deferred, to be refused as presently is. It talks about a revised notice. It's not highlighted. And in the additional materials, we have, again, the request from the applicant that they missed a height variance. So we won't be proceeding, but let's deal with the deferral matter. So the only person on the line, I believe, is Dominic Gulli, agent for the applicant. Dominic?
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Morning, Chair, committee members. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Joe Dominelli, respectfully
What can I
requesting
share?
your committee's consideration to have this application deferred at this time. We're requesting deferral to give us the time to clearly identify the variances required, particularly with respect to some confusion relating to the North York bylaw. Given the recommendations from City Planning for deferral, which we take seriously, we're undergoing a further zoning review, after which time we will be better equipped to present arguments. I hope that the committee will look favorably on our request and hopefully also assist us on getting this item back on the agenda as soon as practicable. Thank you, Chair and committee, for considering our request.
Thank you, sir, and nice seeing you. Well, not really.
Nice to see you, Mr. Clark.
Thank you. So can I have a motion to defer, please?
Andy Bellissimo moves for deferral.
Thank you. Thank you, Laura Alderson has your hand up to second. Thank you. All in favor, the matter is deferred.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item is item number 6, 20 Shadwick Drive. Again, this is for a new detached dwelling, and there's 9 variances. There was a decision, an application that was refused on this matter November 30th, 2021, and I had a question, just how is this one different? But it looks like there's a request from community planning to have this matter, I believe, either deferred or to refuse variance 3, the front yard lot line. And the speakers for this application, we only have one, is Josie Caldas.
Yes.
Who is the owner of the property?
Yes. Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
So community planning is, I didn't give a full introduction. We did receive a presentation materials in our additional materials. We do have a negative planning report, and planning is actually asking for condition 2 that this matter be deferred. Condition number 2 means in order to provide adequate time for staff to appropriately review the application, discuss any concerns, obtain potential changes, and or secure revised materials. So I think that's what the case, because they've already said to refuse your front lot line variance.
And I would be happy to move the house back. That's not an issue at all.
The first thing, are you okay then to have this matter deferred so that you can make the changes to your application and come back when you're ready to do so after you've discussed this matter and planning staff has had time to review what you're going to be changing?
So with all due respect, this is obviously our second time, as you mentioned, and we submitted our revised plans in February of 2022, and we satisfied all the forestry requirements, transportation requirements. We've reduced all of our variances. After submitting our second application, we made lots of attempts to connect with the city, to connect with the planners so that we could discuss and see what changes they were actually looking for. And we didn't hear back from anyone at the city until April 29th, which was 8 days before the hearing, when they recommended deferring. And as you can probably understand, if we defer, we won't be able to start our project until at least the fall. That's going to push us into winter construction with additional costs. We've already been, we've been waiting for this for quite some time. Our time is limited in our current house. We have 3 kids. We need to vacate soon. And so for us, time is of the essence at this point.
Okay, so community planning, I guess, notwithstanding they're asking for more time, I think they were more looking to secure changes in view of their recommendation that the committee refuse your front yard setback variance, which they know it has already been changed or revised in a previous approval in this property in 2011. Is that the case? So there, if you want to proceed, community planning is recommending deferral, and in the refuse variance 3, I don't know if you could proceed without variance 3. You'd be then at 6.6 from the front lot line, because otherwise, if you get a refusal, you're going to be even further delayed. I understand the perils of having to delay to another meeting to make changes and change your plans. So again, the committee will decide what can be deferred, but I'm just advising you of the risk of proceeding.
Yeah.
especially in view of that negative planning report.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm more than happy to move the house back. The only issue with moving the house back is that it'll probably set off another bylaw infraction, because then we won't be in line with the neighbors. And so I think our variance is less intrusive to the neighbors, but I'm happy to push it back. Like, that's not an issue at all.
From the panel members, if they feel that this should be deferred, I guess they've been listening to what we've been discussing. But, you know, this is not a design. We're in the middle of a hearing here, and we have to decide whether we're going to move forward on these applications or not. That's the first. We're not looking at it, the merits here. It's here because of this community planning request that it either be deferred or that variance 3, I think they called it a different variance, but on our list, it's the variance 3. So that's what it's up to you. You have made revisions. There were 8 variances. There are now 6. One of those has been revised. So yes, but sorry, that's the wrong one. I'm not reading the notes, but I'm sorry. It's the issue of the front yard setback. And the committee's going to want to know how this decision is different than the one that was refused in November, right? So committee members, any questions for the applicant or on the issue of the deferral motion? Can I have a motion either to proceed or to defer? I've talked enough.
Sorry, was that for me or for the committee members?
For the committee members.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying if you, or I'll give you one. Okay, you still want to proceed today, correct?
Yes, sir. I would like to proceed.
Okay, thanks. So the committee knows your position, and that is community planning and the ramifications. Members, if no questions, can I have a motion either in favor of the deferral request or motion to proceed? And I can't see Mr. Palmer or Sophia Reddick if they're with us. I don't even know if they're with us.
Mr. Chair, as a note,
They haven't joined yet.
Oh, they have. Okay.
If the applicant wishes to proceed, I think we should proceed. But I would have a question of staff to ask when would be the next available date that if we defer, when would be the next available date for this, for them to be heard?
We can't give them a date until they submit revisions, and I don't know how long it will take them to do that.
Okay. I'm willing to hear the application.
Okay.
I don't know how Mr. Bellissimo feels about it, but.
I'll second the motion, but I think we've had enough time on this one for now. Let's go through with that. That's what the applicant wants. I'll support that too.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, motion. We will proceed. So please go back on hold on the line, and we'll be back to you, Ms. Caldas, in due course as when we get to your application. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Talk soon. Next one is item number 7, 23 Bratty Road. Again, item number D2. The same reason as in the previous one. Again, this is for a detached dwelling with an attached garage and a pool in the backyard. There were 7 variances. We do have revised plans highlighted. There are now 4 variances, all of which have also been revised. So let's hear from, before I further introduce what we have with us on this, including a reduction in the deck, I noted, from 38 square meters plus to now 10 square meters. And I believe that's one of the objection letters was concerned with. Let's hear from the applicant, Marin Zabzuni.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Marin Zabzuni at 1140 the Queensway. So we have worked with city planning to make these adjustments and changes. We submitted back to them. They said they didn't have enough time to update their planning report. And that's the reason the deferral request is still there. But since we made quite significant changes, we wish to proceed and explain what we have revised because we feel that it meets the 4 tests.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, and I just note you'd have 7 letters of support, and the only letter of objection from 60 Broad Oaks was concerned with the large deck, which you've now reduced. It's still over, but it's 10 meters, not 39 meters. Okay. So members, the applicant would like to proceed. Can I have a motion?
I'll make that motion to proceed.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson.
Second it.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo, the matter is we will proceed. So go back in the queue and we'll see you soon, Mr. Zabzuni.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, next one again, proceeding right in order. Item number 8, 21 Thames Avenue for a detached dwelling with an attached garage with 10 variances. And we have request again D2 from Community Planning. The speaker on this application is Vincent Galora, owner, and also a neighbor at 16 to speak. Mr. Galora.
Good morning, it's Vincent Galoro.
Good morning.
We're requesting a deferral. We just completed our discussions with planning, and currently we're just making the revisions to resubmit on this particular file.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, community members, the owner agrees with community planning, wants a deferral. We have another speaker on the line. Let's just weigh in quickly. Gina Vivian at 16 Thames.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning. If you've been listening along, the community planning was requesting a deferral. The applicant or agent is in favor. I believe it's the your neighbor, the owner, yes. And they wish us to make changes. So just as a courtesy, just weighing in, I assume you're okay with the deferral?
Yes, we're okay with the deferral.
And hopefully, I don't know if there's been any consultation with your neighbor, but hopefully you, the neighbors are discussing and you're being kept in the loop.
Yes.
Okay.
We need to be more informed.
Okay. Well, the Mr. Zabzuni is listening. Motion to defer.
Happy to make that motion to defer.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. Seconded by Mr. Bellissimo. All in favor? I see that we have Ms. Roddick with us now. The matter is deferred. Okay, we'll see you back here another time.
So Paul, for minutes, we'll mark Sophia as the next item being present, okay?
Confirmed, thank you.
Okay, and the next application is right in order, item number 9, 6 ELTHAM Drive, and again, it's Mr. Zabzuni, the agent on this application, again, for reason D2. This is again was for a detached dwelling with an attached garage. There were 12 variances. There are now 9. We do have a revision on this. We have supporting materials, cover letter, and 6 letters of support. Urban Forestry looking for conditions 1 and 2. Mr. Zabzumi, are you in agreement with community planning's wish to defer, given you've made changes?
Good morning. No, this is the same scenario as before, essentially. Same planner even. We made revisions, send it to them. They didn't have time to update the report, but we think significantly that this means the FOURTEENTH, given that the massing complies overall. It's just the numbers on.
Okay, so do you want to defer or?
I would like to proceed based on those merits, please.
Okay, because I'm saying you had 12, you're now down to 9. Those. But in actually a number of applications today, we've seen 2 sets of revisions. We have a couple of cases where the application has been revised twice.
Yep.
Okay, so the agent would like to proceed. Can I have a motion on this matter?
Motion to proceed.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson.
Bellissimo, second.
Thank you, sir. All in favor? Okay, the matter will proceed. I already crossed it out, so I'll have to make sure I don't miss that one. Okay, the next one, again, in order, number 10, 49 Arcadian Circle. Again, a new dwelling, detached dwelling, existing detached garage in the rear yard to be maintained. Again, request from community planning, and it looks like the applicant is also requesting to make modifications to the drawing. There were 2 letters of opposition, and on the line, we have, we have apparently Erica Strangis was supposed to be on the line, but I've been advised she is not going to be on the line in light of the deferral. And we have Andy Scholes from the Long Branch Neighborhood Association on the line as well on this matter.
Mr. Chair, instead of Andy, it'll actually be Christine speaking onto the file in regards to the Ratepayers Association.
Okay.
So Christine is unmuted now.
Okay, so Christine, you're on this matter. The applicant is agreeing to the request. I guess they're not even present, and community planning did have it as a request for deferral for time to review and make changes. So I assume that's a good thing as far as the association is concerned.
Correct. We would support deferral, specifically just for the record, a reduction in the FSI, the 3-floor presentation, as well as the variances for the elevated decks. And but if those can be improved upon, we would happily attend again for their revised application.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Mercado, and good to hear you again. And I don't know if you'll be with us on any other applications today, but okay, so the association is in favor. We're proceeding in the absence of the applicant or agent. So can I have a motion to defer, please?
To support community planning's request for deferral.
Danny Bedissimo seconds the motion.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, the matter is deferred. We'll see you again, Ms. Mercado. And I believe we have one more. Item 14, 19 Putney Road. It was on the memo, item D2 as well. I now see that the agent is also requesting deferral and has advised has not posted the sign or signed the sign declaration. Vincent Deloro as the owner?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you want this matter to be deferred?
Similar to item number 8, we just completed our discussions with planning and forestry, and so we're in the process of revisions to reduce the amount of variances, and we're requesting a deferral so we can get the notice updated.
Okay, so yeah, I thought I was seeing double. I see you were also the speaker on the applicant on item number 8 for 21 Thames.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Members, motion to defer, please.
Happy to support the request for deferral.
Okay.
Happy to second.
Thank you, Ms. Reddick. All in favor? Okay, the matter is deferred, and we can now return to the, after having deferred those matters, we can go back to the top of the agenda.
Am I no longer required? I can exit?
Oh yeah, no, you have to stick around until we're finished. Only kidding. Yes, you can go.
Everyone.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Take care. Bye.
Okay, back to the top then. Item number 1 is 4872 Dundas Street West. To muddle through without my reading glasses. We have, again, in many cases today, a revised agenda page, and those are good things to show that applications are being revised as they're considered. So this is for a 4-story mixed-use building consisting of office use on the 1st and 2nd floors, a total of 5 residential units. On the 3rd and 4th floors, there were 7 variants. There are now 5. Variants 5 and 7 have been deleted. We have the revised zoning review, plans, cover letter, and we have a planning memo. They've advised all comments during the site plan control process, but wants our decision to reflect the zoning review that the dwelling that these 2 variances don't apply, and we have 2 letters of objection. We have a repeat of that letter of objection in the additional materials, a cover letter, and with the planning justification report. More importantly, transportation has no objection, has 4 conditions, and we do have that double letter from 9 Burnhamthorpe, and as well a letter from 12 Burnhamthorpe. Speakers for this application, we have several. The agent is Andrew Palumbo, as well as we have neighbors from 1320 Islington Avenue and the neighbor that wrote in from 9 Burnhamthorpe registered to speak.
Mr.
So
Chair and
following
members,
that
quickly, Mr. Chair, members, quickly as a note, the area resident at 1320 Islington Ave is not present on the call at this time.
Okay. Good to note. And if there's ever a case that the only other speaker, please advise me before I do the introduction, so we're aware that it's unopposed at that point. But we do still have Deborah Pankhurst on this matter. So, Mr. Palumbo, I guess we'd like a presentation from you on this application. The floor is yours.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee and Committee of Adjustment staff. My name is Andrew Palumbo, and I am the planner agent for the proposed minor variance application at 4872 Dundas Street West. I'd like to just provide the committee with a very brief overview of the proposed application in question for the subject site. And I'd like to start out firstly by just advising and reminding the committee that this proposal is for a 4-story mixed-use building in the mixed-use area within Etobicoke Center. It's been subject to an active site plan approval application since 2016 and has undergone extensive technical review from relevant city staff over the last 6 years. And this includes 7 total SPA submissions over that time frame. Approval of the resulting 5 minor variances before the committee today is essentially the last step that's needed in order to proceed to the issuance of notice of approval conditions and ultimately final site plan approval for the subject site. Although detailed both in the planning justification letter submitted by me, along with the city transportation staff report dated May 2nd, I just want to provide a very high-level summary of the required variances that are required in order to permit the proposed development as follows. So the proposed height is essentially off by 57 centimeters from what's required. So 15 meters is required as of right. It's 15.57 that's required for the approval. Which in my opinion is not really realized from the public realm. It would not result in any adverse impacts of a planning nature to the surrounding area, such as shadows, privacy, or overlook, or access to sky views. Therefore, it should be treated as such as a minor deviation from what's actually required, with minimal to no adverse impacts on the surrounding area. The remaining 4 variances are all transportation related, and I'll sum them up as follows. So yes, despite that the parking is deficient by 5 spaces, the following key attributes should be taken into consideration. So the site is located within the protected major transit station area delineation for the TTC Islington Station. So it is important to keep in mind that the city is transitioning at a citywide scale toward eliminating parking minimums across the city, especially in major transit station areas, in an effort to essentially reduce auto dependency on a widespread basis throughout the city. Further, there is on-street parking that is available to the subject site along Dundas Street. And lastly, as mentioned in the city transportation staff report, the applicable site-specific zoning bylaw standards were established in 2002. So these have since become outdated because if one were to apply the current parking policy area 4 standards of the current citywide zoning bylaw 569-2013 to the subject site, only 6 parking spaces would be required and a variance wouldn't even be required as a result. Along these lines, along with this rationale, no loading spaces proposed for the subject site, and however, as just mentioned, the more current loading standards of citywide zoning bylaws 569-2013 will not require a loading space for the proposal in its current form. And one thing I just wanted to touch upon on a more day-to-day scale, apart from the initial move-in loading activities for the site, loading activities are not expected to be very frequent at this site or very minor in scale, and which can occur as they do today, either whether it's along Dundas Street or pulling over in the driveway that corresponds to the actual site itself. The remaining 2 variances dealing with access driveway width reduction to 4.1 meters and the 10 centimeter reduction in the width of one of the proposed parking spaces, just one of the 8 are deficient by 10 centimeters. These are again minor and technical in nature, don't present any operational or functional issues as confirmed by the city transportation staff report. And I will note right now, Mr. Chairman, that having reviewed those conditions, all of them seem very reasonable, and there are no issues with the conditions of approval that are being requested by transportation staff. And overall, just to sum up, in my opinion, the proposal represents an infill redevelopment that replaces an existing dilapidated use along a major street that addresses important established city mandates, including modest growth and intensification within MTSAs where growth is targeted and within walking distance of Islington Station and within the Etobicoke City Center, as I mentioned. These are areas that are again targeted for growth and intensification in general, and also the reduction in auto dependency and usage, as through the parking reduction variance that's being requested. So as such, I would request that the committee approve this application as it meets the 4 tests for a minor variance under the Planning Act and represents good planning. I'm very happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for your time.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone have any questions for the agents? Okay, I'm not sure.
Just a quick question. If you were to walk it from that location, walk to the station, what is the walking time?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I have not actually measured it myself. I know roughly when you're looking on the map, it's roughly 600 meters away from the subject site to the station.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, and of course, planning has advised that they will comment through the site plan control process, and they obviously want a decision to reflect the elimination of the 2 variants that have been withdrawn. We have 2 letters of concern, one from the owner of number 9 and number 12 Burnhamthorpe, and as well we have on the line and a letter from the tenant of apartment 511 in that structure at 9, and she's here to make comments, and perhaps we can get the letter up on the board as which is in our package and also in our additional materials while she's making her presentation. So welcome to Deborah Pankhurst.
Hi, I'm Deborah Pankhurst. I live at 9 Burnhamthorpe Crescent, which is a condo building that overlooks the property directly. So that is the area of my concern. This building is hugely overbuilt relative to all the other buildings. So there's a number of mixed-use buildings that are along Dundas that our building overlooks. This particular building is double the height. It's twice as many floors as all the other buildings, and they're asking for an incremental height variance. It extends about 20 meters deeper into the lot than any of the other buildings, and it's built out over the driveway. All the other buildings have open driveways. So this is a dramatically bigger building than anything else that's along this block, and it will intrude quite a bit into our living space for those of us who overlook this property. I'm going to end up with a balcony that will be approximately 20 feet from my unit. And that's where my objection arises, from them asking for more height and putting a balcony on the north side because it intrudes into privacy. They're building 5 residences and 2 offices and providing inadequate parking. The 5 residences appear to be there because they're looking for rental income, I think, to pay for this entire building. But they're 40% below the required amount. So the offices are going to take up the 8 parking spaces. So these residences will have no parking. To answer your question, the subway is about a 15 to 20-minute walk away. But not everybody takes the subway. And they're also having a narrower parking and narrower parking spaces. So if you look at their drawing, the only way that you can enter this property and exit it is you have to back your car onto the adjacent property. That's how tight the space is. So that doesn't strike me as being particularly good planning. The way I look at it is that there's too many residences for the available space. There's also without the absence of the loading, does mean that every time somebody moves in or out or there's a delivery, there will be a truck on Dundas Street. There is restricted parking on Dundas Street. You can't park during rush hour in front of this building. So there's no option for the residents to park on Dundas Street. So my perspective is that the building is too big for the available lot, that the number of residences is too great for the available parking that they have. And that's the nature of my objection.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Pankhurst. And I'm sorry I mispronounced it as Parkhurst previously. So
Okay.
just want to point out, we'll hear back from the applicant. We had your letter that it looks like the height variances, I realize it's more imposing than the other buildings, but they're only actually 0.57 of a meter over the height requirement. So
And I
it's-
recognize that, but the significance for me is that we're a little bit below grade, and that's going to take the balcony on the top floor right adjacent to my property. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it's going to be right there.
Okay.
And so, you know, I don't understand why they can't just take it down.
Okay, we'll hear from Mr. Palumbo in response to your concerns. Perhaps he can touch upon that. Mr. Palumbo?
Mr. Chair and members, before we go back to Mr. Palumbo, I'd like to bring to your attention, I have a user on the line by simply the name Mike. Now, I think the mic might be for a different file later on in the morning session, but I'd like to confirm it. Thank
Yes, please.
User Mike, go ahead to confirm that you're not the owner of 1320 Islington Ave. Mike, is this Mike D. Oliveri that's currently unmuted? Interested in item 18, number 62 Princeton Road? Mr. Chair, my theory is that the person that's logged in as quote unquote Mike is the agent for item number 18 and not the area resident Michael Fairley in question. I'd like to submit this time.
Yeah, because the speaker we couldn't find was also his name, Mike. It was a good. So you don't have that person on the line?
I'd like to confirm then Michael Fairley, is the area resident is still not on the call at this time.
Oh, okay. Very good. So we just understood. So the people who wrote in with the letter of objection, I think said they own 9 and 12. I guess maybe they have units in those as well. So we'll go back then to Mr. Palumbo to respond to Ms. Pankhurst's comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'll start with the height. Again, 57 centimeters is not, in my opinion, would not have any adverse impacts of a plan nature, but just to shed some light onto why that 57 centimeters exists, it has to do with the parapet wall at the top of the building that's actually meant to provide some screening for the elevator shaft that sort of protrudes at the top. So that, and again, I'll be honest, I've been involved with this file since 2020, late 2020. There's been a lot of extensive review and revision leading up to that point, and the result is the building that you see before you today. And I will understand, it seems that it obviously is, as the objector put it, an overdevelopment. There is no variance required for FSI, so there's nothing to speak to in terms of the site being overdeveloped from a density standpoint. There are no variances associated with setback reductions or building length, or under the other typical built form variances associated with something being quote unquote overdeveloped. So I just wanted to touch on those few points. And also, I understand the concern with the balcony. That's always a concern when balconies are in close contact to one another, but there is, again, no requirement for either balcony size or location. So that balcony is permitted to be there as proposed on the plans. One thing I should also just shed light on, just what in general this area in the city of Toronto and Dundas, as of April 28th, I believe, there, at the immediate west, there's an application for a 12-story mixed-use building that was just submitted to the city, but again, no details have actually been posted with respect to that application. I checked the AIC website; those don't exist yet. So obviously, this is an area undergoing a bit of a facelift. The current use is a dilapidated, vacant building that's been vacant for a number of years. So again, in my opinion, the facelift that it's getting meets the 4 tests for the reasons I've outlined. And again, with the parking, I definitely understand there's always concerns with parking, but the proposal speaks more to the overall direction. And again, the city is headed and has tried to make a firm commitment to reducing parking and reducing parking minimums across the city, and particularly within MTSAs, which this is located within with respect to Islington Station. I'm not sure if there are any other questions that I could touch upon that the objector had raised, but those are the ones that jumped out at me. And again, happy to answer anything further.
Okay, anyone have any questions for Mr. Palumbo or for the neighbor for that matter, or someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
I actually just want to weigh in with a couple of comments, and then I'm happy to weigh in with a motion. I agree with the applicant that this is it meets the 4 tests and it's desirable. And I just wanted to clarify, I did do my little Google map. It's an 11-minute walk from there to the station along Cordova. So I think that's a pretty decent walk. I appreciate the neighbor concerned with the height, because I'm actually having a 33-story tower built to the south of me. Unfortunately, There's an old saying at planning school, if you like the view, buy it, because no one's entitled to a view. So I'm going to make a motion for approval. I believe it does meet the 4 tests, and I think it is a desirable building for that particular location.
Okay, and there's no,
Who seconds the motion?
I believe there are no conditions.
okay, and that's Mr. Bellissimo seconding that?
Yes.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, there are conditions. There are transportation conditions.
Oh,
Thanks.
sorry,
Phil.
transportation,
just-
subject to transportation conditions, yes.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to interject. I didn't want to get missed.
Thank you.
Thank you. And as we know, there's the planning is dealing with this through site plan, which is appropriate. Okay, all in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. The application is approved, and have a great, wonderful day. Okay, our next application is item number 273 CONEY Road. It's for a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There were 3 variances. We have revised, highlighted agenda page and the revised zoning waiver, etc., which in all cases we have revised notices, we have revised waiver and revised plans, but I'll mention it each time. We have a cover letter enclosing the revised drawings. We have 4 letters of support, and that's all we have. Maren Zabzuni is the agent. So we're left, coverage has been removed. We now just have floor space index and soffit height before us. Welcome, Mr. Zabzuni.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Marin Zabzuni at 1140 the Queensway.
Mr. Chair and members, before we go any farther, I'd like to bring to your attention that member Neil Palmer is now on the call.
Wonderful. Welcome. Okay, and you can vote now as he's present for these applications going forward. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Zabzuni? Very straightforward. I don't believe we need a presentation, or is someone ready to weigh in with a motion? 2 variances.
Anybody else would like to weigh in with a motion if there are no further questions by the members? I move for approval of the variances. Find they're minor in nature. I believe there are no conditions.
Correct. Seconder for that. Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Zabzuni.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 3 is 39 Willington Boulevard. It is an application to legalize and maintain the existing detached garage in the rear yard. There are 2 variances. And we have an order to comply, an applicant's presentation, and a total of 6 letters of support, looks like. And in the additional materials, we have an applicant's presentation as well. These we have 4 speakers on this application, unless subject to staff telling us that we have everyone. The applicant is the agent, Dio Paquette, applicant for the agent. We have the neighbors of 39, 40, and 36 Willington Boulevard registered to speak on this application. We didn't have any written letters of objection. We just had the letters of support. So let's hear from Dio Paquette.
Good morning, Chairman Clark and members of the committee. Thank you very much for hearing us. The subject property is at 39 Willingdon Boulevard, and as you mentioned, it's legalizing to maintain the existing detached garage in the rear yard. We have 6 letters of support, either neighbor on either side and other adjoining neighbors. History of background, the Malekas moved in to this 1933 home and were able to meet the zoning bylaw when they renovated and a few years ago, and have enjoyed living in the Queensway neighborhood. Today, they're asking to maintain the detached garage in the rear yard for reasons which are related to personal needs and physical challenges that Mr. Maleka has experienced recently. As a result, the garage and current use of the property that needs to be maintained to store goods and chattels needed for their livelihood. The garage occupies 8.5% of the lot coverage, and the building in itself complies with the size and configuration of the homes in the neighborhood. In fact, nearly all of the homes in the immediate neighborhood have garages. Therefore, they're not asking for a bigger house. They're asking for variants that are generated as a result of wanting to maintain the garage in the rear. The 4 tests: is this application minor in nature? Yes. Is it desirable for the appropriate development or use of the land, budding, or structure? Yes. It is in keeping with the general intent and purposes of the zoning bylaw. Yes. Is it in keeping with the general intent and purposes of the official plan? Yes. As the architect and planner for the Melekas, I will provide you reasons and thoughts to answer the 4 tests. I believe this variance is minor in nature and the existing building is desirable and is in keeping with the general intent of the zoning bylaw and the official plan. Interpretation. Some might construe that the Melekas are adding to the size of their house that would normally be permitted, but this is not what they are doing. As much as they're asking for an overage on lot coverage and FSI variance, it is directly and only related to the detached garage. If it suits the committee appropriately and out of risk that someone might misconstrue this as permitting the building to get larger, they encourage you to condition the approval that the variances be attributed solely as a result of maintaining the detached garage. Important factors. There is a legacy of gross floor area and of lots, including the size of an ancillary building, factoring into the lot coverage requirements. While there is a movement away from this with the advent of allowing coach houses and laneway suites per recent legislation, if it were so converted, those areas would be exempt from the calculation of gross floor area. The Melekas appreciate this neighborhood has a historic requirement to include both any detached structure and the principal building in the calculation of the floor space index for a lot. The reality is, if the use and enjoyment of the property is acceptable, then the calculated lot coverage and resulting gross floor area because of the detached garage should also be deemed acceptable as well. Neighborhood and city. The Melekas have been working very diligently with building staff to make sure that at the conclusion of the approval that the committee might grant, this will allow for any of the permits that are open because of detached garage to be closed and the building application to be concluded, hence the order to comply to maintain the garage requirement under committee. They've also been working very closely with their neighbors as well as helping neighbors such as Adam at 40 Willingdon Boulevard with navigating the permit process and providing guidance with this project. Summary. As much as the Melekas are looking to maintain their garage, there aren't any other impacts to be maintained to the use and enjoyment of the space in terms of permeability of soil, adequacy of soft surface areas to absorb the sun's rays and to provide for penetration of moisture and rain into the earth. They will be in compliance with the landscaping requirements, and there is a spatial separation between the adjacent property owners that is not only appropriate, but it actually acts as a good privacy for the enjoyment of the adjacent property owners. To recap, the existing garage is innocuous, has been used and enjoyed. Neighbors are okay with it as per the letters of support, and it is not making the site bigger. Just what is existing there, it meets the 4 tests in our opinion, minor in nature, desirable for the use of the structure in keeping with the general intent and purposes of the zoning bylaw and the official plan. We have some photographs of the property and showing there'll be absolutely no impact. It's just a request in the variances to keep the existing garage. Some pictures, we have buildings at the front and the back. I'm not sure if I'm close to the 4 minutes.
It's got 30 seconds.
And then the last slide is we have precedents of about 10 similar applications have been granted by the committee in the last few years to do with the lot coverage and the permitted FSI, including the detached garage. So thank you very much, committee members. And I've got 3. And I also like to thank the ECC chamber clock for being so diligent. Thank you.
Thank you. Perfectly on time. Now I have a question because I had 3 people, and as I'm listening to this, I see there's only 2 small variants. Well, the coverage variance and the fact that the garage is included in the coverage and the second variance. And I see 3 people, but are all these 3 people speaking in support? Because it looks like some of the names at least jive with the letters of support we have. And if I knew everyone's in support, I might not ask you to do a full 5-minute presentation. So having said that, staff or if any of these 3 neighbors, 39, 40, and 36, are they all here as good neighbors to echo support, or does someone have a concern with this? That's my first question.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to bring to your attention the area residents at 39 Wilmington are the property owners, and they're simply on the call for any additional questions they ask. So we can, and during the sound check, I did confirm with them that they're not, they'd like, their agent is here to speak on their behalf, and that they were only here for emergency type questions. As for Adam and Marina, I can't confirm one or the other, but maybe we'll bring them on the call to ask.
Yeah, I think we have letters of support from them. Adam Mabley, 40 Wilmington,
Yes,
are you?
Yes, I'm here to support the application.
Okay, so I was wondering what's going on here. Why are these neighbors on the phone on this? Okay, and the same thing for us. We don't need to hear from you unless anyone has questions. And the neighbor Marina at 36 across the street.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm also here in support of the application.
Wow, it's so nice for neighbors to come and participate in this meeting, even though it's only virtually. So having said that, I don't believe we need a rebuttal. I do have okay, so the building was built in 1933. So when was this garage built? That was my only question for you, Mr. Paquette.
The historic houses. This is the original coach house that appears on the survey. It hasn't been changed footprint wise, and it would be certainly a shame to demolish it from all this history pre-World War II. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your presentation. In any event, it was very good, but I don't think it was necessary. Members, any questions or a motion to approve?
Hey, Bellissimo's ready to make a motion if there are no further questions. In reviewing the location map, I find this project is typical at the property level, the street level, and the neighborhood level. And I find the variances are minor in nature, move for approval. No conditions.
Thank Mr. Bellissimo. Seconder for that, Ms. Alderson. Thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Okay, thank you, Mr. Paquette. Next application is item number 5, 464, the Kingsway. Again, revised agenda page, highlighted to show changes. In this case, there it's for a detached dwelling with an attached garage. We have with a rear yard swimming pool and a cabana in the rear yard. So we have a revised notice. There were 8 variances. There are now 6. One of those has been revised. We have the revised plans, zoning review waiver, cover letter, previous decisions in the area. Planning, oh yes, this is the one we did in the introduction, is looking to refuse variance 3 for the front lot line. Setback, they were previously given a variance by the committee in 2011 for a front yard setback, but they don't want to go any further. Forestry is looking for conditions 2 and 5. 5 is a refusal. And we, sorry, that was an item 6. My mistake. Yeah, we have transportation has no conditions. And so that's what we have. Sorry, but the comment, the last comment was not applicable to the other one. So, but we do have that. So let's have on the line.
Mr. Chair, before we move along, I'd like to bring to your attention there is a late registrant, an area resident by the name of Wendy Wargala, who would like to speak on this file.
Okay, and what's that party's address? Or we'll find that out when we.
Correct. We'll have it for our notes on our end here.
Okay. Okay, thank you. The agent is Sean Tusi. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Sean Tusi. I'm the principal architect at Mimar Architects, Inc., representing the owner today. With your permission, Mr. Chair, when you see fit, just to sort of clarify things, I'll go over the list and the ones that are removed, the ones that are changed, just to make sure that we all have the same understanding of what is in front of committee today.
Okay, so it's right. We can get that plan. There were 8, there are now 6, and one of those has been revised. The outside lot line variance.
Yes, two through Mr. Chair. 2 of the revised, 2 are removed, and then I just had a comment about the front yard setback, which was the only issue remaining between us and the planning. And there is a reason why we would sort of insist in keeping it, which I will go through that. But just to sort of clarify, the number 4 is being revised to 1.8, which is the way you have it on the screen right now. So that is correct. The number 5 is being completely removed, which is correct, the way you have it in front of you. Number 6, we are changing it to 7 meters. So that you do not have it in the screen right now, most likely with you. So we're making that condition better by about a foot. And we're asking only for like half a meter variance. So number 6 is changing. The proposed dueling will have a soffit height of 7 meters. So instead of 7.3 meters, it will have the soffit height of 7 meters.
Okay, is that reflected in revised plans or red line?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The drawings that you have does reflect the changes that I went over And the last thing is number 8, which you correctly have removed it, and we are also removing that variance. So 2 revised, number 4 and number 6 are being revised, and number 5 and number 8 in the list of variance is being removed. And then through my sort of presentation, I'm going to focus on number 3, which is the only items that the planning has some issue with.
Please proceed then.
So,
Yeah,
Mr.
so
Chair,
Yes.
the waiver and the plans do reflect the change. It was missed by staff.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and we do have the staff report, so that's the item that Mr. Tusi is going to speak to.
Yes, if we can look at bring up the site plan, please, and we could zoom in on the sort of the property line, so I could, yeah. So if you could zoom in on the house, very good. This house, the story is that we're building a new house for a family with a person that requires barrier-free design. So that was basically the most important thing. That's mainly why they're even doing this project, is to really design the house that externally and internally can accommodate that person that is living with them. And that was our main task, really working with this. That causes us a lot of challenges, as you might imagine, in how the widths of corridors and how the flow of the house internally is, but it also had some impacts externally. And the front yard setback is really as a result of that. And I will go through, and I'm going to focus my presentation on that, because everything else of the planning has no objection, seems very typical and what you typically have in front of you. So the lot itself is about 140 feet, about 40 meter. And then a typical front yard setback for a typical house in the City of Toronto is about 6 meter. And then you have about 17 to 19 meter for the building depth and the building length, and then the rest is left for the backyard. So this is a special property that requires 10.5 meter front yard setback, which is more than what you typically see in City of Toronto. And when the client purchased this property for the purpose of building a house that accommodates a person with that condition, obviously they didn't know the front yard setback is, so that 40 meters seems to be enough depth to put everything they like to have. When you do barrier-free design, you would have limitations in terms of corridors, and then obviously you want to give that person the right and the access, it is their house, to be able to come to the backyard, go from the front yard. That's the whole reason why we're designing a new house ground up. And because of that, we sort of started from the back with the minimum they needed for the family. And we had to have corridors that are at least 1.4 meter. And then and when you put all of that, if you look at the backside, we have a sitting area, the pool area, and then we have that 1.40 meter for the access of the wheelchair, and then we have the walk up the stairs, and then we have that access, which is 1.8 meter, which with the railing and everything will end up with the clear height, which is minimum required. And then we try to squeeze the house as much as we could, right? If you look at it, we have 16.85 even to the front, like from the deepest back to the furthest front. We even lessen what the bylaw requires, because we wanted to squeeze everything to the minimum to reduce, to increase the front yard setback as much as possible and get it as close as possible to what the bylaw required. And then you can imagine, with all the requirements inside the house, with the widths of corridor, that was itself a big challenge. Typically for that, we would need a lot more depth to accommodate it, but we managed to come up with some design ideas that would squeeze the house as much as possible and keep it at 16.85. So I think this is a very good sample of why the committee exists, in a sense that the zoning bylaw.
Mr. Chairman, the speaker is already at 5.5 minutes.
Sorry, so
Okay.
I'm going to very quickly wrap it up. Yeah, well, quickly wrap it up. This is a good example, and the reason I would say is that the zoning bylaw is not designed for somebody with barrier-free requirement, and that's why the committee would be able to consider these exceptions. If it wasn't because of that condition, we could manage and comply with the bylaw. And because this is a special situation, we think it justifies the requirement for the setback we're asking. Any question, I would be happy to answer.
Okay, thank you. And just point out, I think you only were about 2 minute part when you really started in on the meat and potatoes of your presentation. But thank you for that. So my only question before we're going to hear from the neighbor, I don't know if anyone has any questions, is, you know, in terms of not lining up and the fact you already got a relief from the bylaw back in 2011 on this property and you're building new, and we understand your reasons, point out that we plan, you know, for the house is going to remain where it is. Does it result in your professional opinion, does it result in a skewed problem, like along the Kingsway? I'm looking at the location map. I'm sure Ms. Alderson is looking at Street View on Google, and she can let me know. They look like they pretty line up. Is this house going to stick out like a sore thumb or no? Mr. Tucci?
Oh, Mr. Chair and members, Mike muted himself. I'll go ahead and unmute him now.
Thank you. Yes, yeah. We had our gardener doing the grass cutting, and I didn't want the noise to bother the committee and folks that are listening. Mr. Chair, if you look at the site plan, we could look at the site plan again. This property, we have quite a bit of setback between houses, and when we have these extra setbacks, any differences in sort of projections of the house gets really softened by the distance between houses and also by elements. The house on the north, if you look at it, we have this flower box and the gardening at the front, which make it almost in line with the wall of the house we have. And then the house on the south also has that sort of steps or jogs, which is very in line with what we have. Like we have our house, and then the neighbor is a little bit set back, and then the second part of their house is a little bit further back, the house that is on the south of your drawing or screen. So we think because of the existing increased setbacks between the houses, this will not really be a eyesore or have any negative effect from people that are walking or driving by, and it very well will sit in the streetscape.
Okay. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Tucci? If not, let's hear from the unidentified neighbor, Wendy.
Mr. Chair, it's Wendy Wargala of 79 Abilene Drive.
79 Abilene. Okay, welcome.
Thank you. I am Wendy Wargala. My husband and I live at 79 Abilene Drive, which is behind the 464 the Kingsway.
Right.
And we've got three areas of concern as we've just lived through a rebuild, also backing onto our backyard, which is the house next door to 464 to the north. And the house is beautiful, Sean. It's a lovely design and everything. And we don't have any complaints about your setbacks or whatever you're dealing with. But I'll let you know what we experienced with the other new build. The first and most important is the property grading and flooding prevention. We and our next door neighbor continue to have significant flooding in our backyard since the other rebuild because the Kingsway is higher than Abilene. So it wasn't, I don't know whether it needs a supporting wall or what, but that is one of our big concerns, that the water will run down into our place. And I know you have a pool house there, which we kind of like because that's going to give us privacy. So that's our first area of concern, that's addressed. The other one is light pollution. We're in a ranch bungalow, which most of the manor was at the time, and the new builds are of course towering, and because the Kingsway is higher and your basement's raised, it's this massive building behind us. And at night with that other new build, with all their lights on, because you've got 12-foot windows and you've got a deck which is raised, and then you've got an upper balcony. If lights are on and they're pointing at us, they fire into our windows and into our backyard. So it's like living in a Walmart parking lot, if that's all we can compare it to. And our other neighbors on the other side, we both had issues, and we tried to deal with the new owners, and finally our neighbors had to go to the city to have the lights pointed down. So I thought if we could address that earlier, then that wouldn't be an issue. So those are our two main areas of concern. And the third one is how high the basement is raised. Is that to code? And those are my three areas.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Vergala. Anyone have any questions
Benny Belismo has a quick question. So did I hear you say that you're okay with the front yard setback, although planning is not? Is that correct?
Are you talking to Wendy?
Yes, to the presenter.
I have no issues with any setbacks.
She's
Okay.
No, I just was being proactive to
Well,
let them know what our concern was.
It's just that planning is asking us to not approve the front yard setback, so you're okay with that.
I'm okay.
I do notice further down the street on the location map that there are other houses which have a smaller setback. So I'm assuming that's correct, right? Thank you.
Is behind, so she's not really.
Yeah, I have no problem with the front.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions for the speaker? We'll go back to Sean Toucey for his rebuttal and answer those questions, which are not clearly planning, but I think it's helpful if the the neighbor at least hears something on the record on some issues which may not be directly planning related. Okay, Sean.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, the idea of the overlooking view, none of these are really something that we're adding as a variance. We do not have any rear yard setback. We're not asking for any height variance. In fact, this house really designed for the family, and that's why we didn't really need to go even in terms of a square footage. We didn't need to go close, or building depth variances. There was no need to go close to what typically you see in front of you. And because of that, I believe there won't be any issue other than if this house was built as of right, it would have the same effect to the rear neighbors as it is right now. So I think we're not really making that situation any worse from what an as of right house would be. In terms of the water and drainage, obviously this is a new house. The law requires a grading plan. And that would be part of the city and us and a professional surveyor to design the house, so that even if right now the grading is not correct, the owner has to and must fix the grading so that the water drainage happens properly. So the good news for the neighbor present is that if things are not the way they like it right now, the owner is forced through this new house to really fix them and manage the water properly. And Mr. Chair, one item for that front yard setback is that as one of the members as well mentioned, there are houses in that area that are closest to the property line. As and we won't be even numerically a precedent. The house for the record, the house 22 Princess Anne Crescent, having received the approval of proposed 7.5 meter. I'll repeat, 7.5 meter front yard setback, where we are asking 8.5 meters. So it shows that it's really a variation of houses and setbacks. And because the way the bylaw works, we have to go with the average of the neighbors. And in this specific case, the neighbors seems to be a little bit further back than what typically a normal house in that area is, causing this variance. But should the committee decide to approve the application, it's good to know that this is by no means a precedent or even close to what has been previously approved.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Toucey, or is someone ready for a motion on this application?
I have a quick question. How does this property line up? I'm looking at Street View right now. How does this property line up with number 80? Number 80 looks like it's closer to the street, and number 82 looks like it's even closer than that to the street. And I'm just wondering how it lines up with 80 and 82, Gracefield.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if you look at the site plan, that's probably going to be very helpful. Like the amount we're coming out, I don't think it will visually even show from the person who is driving. If we could lower it a little bit so we could have both neighbors on the screen, like the other. Yes, yeah. Thank you so much. So do you see the house? On the top, we have the main building, and then we have that planter at the front, which I think make it very much in line with what our house is. And then the only part that may visually show the house is projecting would be comparing it to the house to the south of this drawing, which as you see, they already have a step in, and then we have quite a bit of setback between the two houses. Yeah. And the other thing is that the front setback that you see in the variance is from that main entrance. If you look, our main entrance is sort of jogged out a little bit. So you are that number is really the worst case scenario. And when we get to that neighbor to the south, we have about half a meter setback, right? Half a meter further setback. So really our setback to the neighbor in the south is not even, is not even what we're asking. It's probably about half a meter, even more.
It looks very negligible, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to compliment you on the design as well. It's a fabulous design. It's nice to see something innovative, different.
Any listeners already make a motion if there are no further questions by the members?
Yep.
Okay, I find that the variances are minor in nature, and I do not agree with the planning recommendation that we deal with or change the front yard setback. I'm convinced, looking at the houses further down the street, that there are houses much closer to the street line. I do understand that number 6, the height should go from 7.3 to 7 meters. And that's recorded by staff, correct?
It's shown on our revised plan, I believe, correct?
No, it's not. The revised plan shows my revised plan shows 7.3 as the presenter said, but the presenters agreed to change number 6 soffit height from 7.3 meters to 7 meters.
Mr. Chair, yes, we are prepared to make that change.
That's what I thought you said. Okay, so I will move approval, then find the variance of minor in nature, and change this section, number 6 to 7 meters.
Happy to second that motion.
Okay, and I don't think there's any other conditions. All in favor? Unanimous. The application is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Have a good day.
Mr. Tusi, for the explanation. Next application is one that community planning had wanted deferred. We had heard from Josie Caldas, the owner, and we've decided we are proceeding on this application. So again, this is to construct a new detached dwelling with 9 variances. Previous COA decision in November 30, 2021 refused an application. We'll want to hear from the owner how this application is different. And the planning is, yes, we have forestry is looking for a refusal as well. We have an applicant's presentation and additional materials. And
I don't think forestry is refusing.
Sorry, we have 6.
I think.
That's it. Is Ms. Caldas with us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead and give us a presentation. Perhaps we can get the presentation materials up on the board while making your presentation.
Okay, thank you. So I think we've already addressed the first slide, which was about the deferral, and so I appreciate you letting me go forward. So thank you very much for that. Yeah. I wanted to note that 20 Shadwick Drive is not the first 2-story house on the street, and so you'll see here that there are quite a number of new builds on the street, and so ours will be very much in line with that. So we are right next door to 22 Shadwick, and we're also...
Please, in your presentation, just please highlight on how it's different from your last one. I note that you have coverage.
So then we can move ahead to the chart at the back. So we've significantly, that one there, we've significantly reduced our more noteworthy variances. And in fact, we'd like to...
Ms. Caldas, you can present in just the way you were planning on doing it. I don't want to just advise, I just want to make sure you cover that issue in your presentation, but don't have to jump to it now, okay?
Okay.
Go back to the way you...
So first off, I'd like to withdraw the dwelling height variance altogether and the soffit height variance. So those would be variance number 8 in the notice and number 7. Those can be removed. In terms of changes that we've made...
Right, that's important. Let's just make a note. Let's slow down. Which variances are you removing? Item number 7, the soffit height, which is overall...
and 8.
0.8. Yeah, it was only over slightly again. The proposed dwelling height, overall dwelling height, 9.88. So you're going to comply. So 7 and 8 are being deleted.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Everyone can make a note of that.
Okay, and then if I focus on where we've made changes, so our original lot coverage requested was 37%. The bylaw is 33%. We've come down to 34.4%. We've also made a significant reduction in the dwelling length. We had originally asked for 21 meters. The bylaw is 17. We're now only asking for 17.79 meters. We've also reduced the side yard setback, and I want to just make a quick note that the 0.91 that we're requesting is only where the chimney breast is. The rest of the house is in line with the bylaw, and so it's only that little piece that kind of sticks out where we go to 0.91. With the changes to the lot coverage and the dwelling length, we've reduced our floor space index to 0.65. So those are the bigger ones. We've got our parking entrance, and as you can see from the pictures, a lot of the houses have double car garages. We're requesting a 1.5 car garage, and that's just so that we can park one car and then have some space for storage, bikes and garbage and recycling, and all that kind of stuff. If I look at lot coverage more carefully, the 34.4% is very minor compared to other houses in the area, and I know 21 Shadwick, which is right across the street from us, that one is 36%. And then if I look at the dwelling length, again, it's a minor variance that we're requesting, and there have been others in the area that are bigger than that. With the side yard setback, I know we've already talked about it. It really only relates to the chimney breast. That's the only place where the bylaw is set off. The rest of it is very much in line with the bylaw and even goes above that. So I am not seeking the dwelling height variance anymore. In terms of the height of all exterior main walls facing a side lot line, we're requesting 7.47 meters. But if you look at, I think it's slide 10, that really it's only a little bit at the front that relates to. The rest, like the rest of the side of the house, the back of the house, all of that is within the bylaw. So it's really just, I think it's slide 10. It's really just the top of the front of the house there. So it's a very small area that is actually, sorry, it's slide 10, whoever is moving the slides, if you can go to 10. It's that one. Yeah, so it's that one. So all along the side of the house, it's going to comply with the bylaw. It's really just that top little piece at the top where the sofa, where it's a little bit different. As I mentioned, I'm not seeking the sofa height, and I've addressed the parking space. You know, it's just a 1.5 car garage, which is not out of line with all of the new houses in the area. And then the front yard setback, which we discussed when we were talking about the deferral. Again, as I said, if we don't seek this variance and we move the house closer to the road, it's going to trigger another bylaw where then we won't really be in line with our neighbors. And so we think this variance is less intrusive to the neighbors, and we've actually spoken to the neighbors, and they actually prefer that we stay in line with them. And so you can see on the site plan as well that we are in line with the neighbors. And with all the changes to coverage and length, we've reduced our FSI to 6.65. That's not out of step with what other houses in the area have gone in. In fact, like you're going to hear other presentations today where the requested variances are much higher, where people are asking for 23%, 22%. So we're only asking for 20. I also wanted to highlight that we've introduced ourselves to the neighbors on the street and in the surrounding area. We've received nothing but positive feedback from our neighbors. They have no concerns, and nobody has raised any concerns about privacy or sunlight or anything, or the house being too big or not in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. And so with all of that, I'd like to respectfully ask that this application be approved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Perfectly. You're at 5 minutes, and thank you for highlighting the changes from the last application. It looks like the big changes, the reduction in the coverage, the the 0.67 that you refused at your own 0.65, but you've advised it's common for the area. we do have the forestry. So let's see if anyone has any questions. There are no other speakers. And thanks for.
Lismo has a question.
I just wanted to highlight that forestry was not suggesting denial. I think they're in favor. I think we just have to pay $500 to remove a tree, and I'm more than happy to do that.
Okay, let's hear Mr. has a for you.
I'm referring to your comment and your presentation, the front yard setback question that planning has also raised. A bit confused because you're saying that.
Sorry, I don't. I was going to ask that question. I don't believe we have a planning memo on this. The comments of planning was on the last application about the front yard setback.
Sorry, I thought my note says that planning was having objection to number 3. Maybe the applicant can answer that question. Is that correct, or am I misreading?
No, I did the same thing. That's on application on the Kingsway. I did the same thing, Danny. That was the comment, I believe. Am I correct? I don't believe we have planning comments.
Variance number 3. Can I ask the applicant? Variance number 3 says that the minimum required setback is 7.82, and you're requesting 6.6 meters. You're requesting to get closer. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
So if we don't approve, your presentation is confusing because it's saying if you don't receive the variance, your house would be closer to the road, where in essence it would be further from the road. That the variance is to allow you to get closer to the road.
Right.
Am I misreading?
Yeah.
So your presentation says the opposite, that if we don't give you this variance, the house will get closer to the road, where in essence.
Sorry, I mean pulled back.
So
but it won't be in keeping with the neighbors.
It will be farther from the road, not closer from the road. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that because I completely misunderstood your presentation. That it's getting, so the variance allows your house to be closer to the road. Thank you.
Okay, and again, there is no concern by community planning to the placement of the house on the lot, close to the front yard line, or any other action. We do not have a planning memo on this. It was on, I got confused also because I read my notes because I had a lot of them. And that's on item 5 that we just finished. That was Mr. Tushi's application on the refusal of variance 3. So again, for the record, there is no concern on the front yard setback from community planning or anyone else on this application. Correct? Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, I got
Thanks for that clarification.
Okay, thanks. So any other questions for Ms. Caldas, or is someone ready for a motion?
Danny Belisma is ready for a motion if there's no further questions. I find the presentation is very interesting, except for the one I just raised. I find when I look at the location map that the front yard setback is not that much out of whack with what's there. So I would like to move for approval subject to forestry. I believe there's a condition on forestry here.
Thank
correct?
Yes, number 3.
Yes, thank you.
I see Mr. Palmer has his hand up.
Yeah, I'm ready to second, but subject to variances 7 and 8 being removed.
Correct. Good clarify. Yeah, that's.
Thank you. She did make that, and I didn't look down at my notes on the next page. Thanks for clarifying that. 7 and 8 would be removed. Yes.
Okay. On the friendly amendment, all in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Ms. Caldas. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Good luck with your house after the appeal period.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I guess it's appropriate time to take a 10-minute break. It's now 11 a.m. We've been going since 9:30. So with everyone's permission, let's do a 10-minute break, returning at 10 minutes after the hour. Okay. Okay, does anyone, I see Danny and Neil back? Not yet, Laura or Sophia.
We have Neil and Sophia, so we have quorum.
Okay. I don't see Sophia on the screen, but okay. So we're moving on, I guess, to item number 7. That was on the deferral memo, but we heard from Mr. Zabzumi, and we are proceeding with that. So that is 23 BRATTY Road. It's for a detached dwelling with an attached garage and a pool in the rear yard. We do have revised yellow highlighted for our agenda notice. There were 7 variances. There are now 4. All of those have also been revised. We obviously have the revised plans and the zoning review waiver, cover letter, arborist report, 7 letters of support. We have,
What does that mean?
we have a letter of concern from regarding the rear deck at 39 square meters have now been reduced in new plans to 10 square meters. And we only have the one registered speaker, Agent Marin Zabzuni. Welcome, Marin.
Hello again, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Marin Zabzuni at 1140 the Queensway.
Okay, just one thing I didn't mention in the additional materials received yesterday, we now have no objection to transportation, but they do have conditions of approval. So please proceed. I don't believe we need a, just want to walk through the changes you made in light of community planning's request for a deferral to clarify that. Then have you had communication that this is acceptable to them?
We worked with planning, and this is actually the second set of revisions sent to them. So they are definitely more comfortable with this. They just didn't have time to update the report as discussed. I can go through the variances briefly if you'd like, just to specify the changes on the 4 remaining variances.
Okay, I don't know if there's no one else speaking. The members, let's why don't we see if members have any questions about what you've done and haven't done. And I see that the rear platform has been substantially reduced in light of the letter of objection. So anything you'd like to just highlight, and rather than a fulsome presentation, we'll see if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, so basically, to make it very brief in that case, the coverage, we reduced the lot coverage of the dwelling itself to 34.9, essentially complying with maximum lot coverage. The variance is coming from the rear cabana and rear covered deck, which is our outside spaces. We removed the length, depth variances. And one thing to mention in terms of the side yard setback, the family room jogs out a little bit towards the rear, far rear corner. So this reduces massing significantly from the front street view. So you only have this setback at the rear portion. Majority of the house on that side is 1.68 side yard setback, 1.68 meters, which is nearly close to compliance. So
Mr. Chair and members, can you guys still hear us here? Mr. Chair and members, if you guys can hear me, I think we've lost the connection with the room, so we'll look to reestablish that right now.
Conditions, because I seconded
Was
the
deferred.
motion.
No, that was deferred.
4 was deferred, yeah. Gracefield.
Gracefield was deferred.
Mr.
The beginning, yes.
Mr. Chair, members, Adam,
the first one.
Adam Wills here. I'd like to,
Okay.
Mr. Chair, members,
I was looking at the wrong application, then it's okay.
Mr. Chair, members, Adam Wills here. I'd like to bring to your attention, we lost connection with the room for a moment there, maybe about 2 minutes. We've reconnected now, but any kind of conversation that might have occurred may not have been logged on YouTube. So for this item, if we could go back to the kind of restart the item, if you will, that would probably be best.
Can we just not cut off where I was asking Mr. Zabzuni a question, or if there's anyone watching?
Yeah, that will be all right. Because we did hear most of the we heard the presentation, and we were about a minute and a half into the presentation when we lost connection with the room here.
Okay, I don't think he didn't go for 5 minutes, Mr. Zabzuni. So all I was saying, and thank you for going through those changes. And this is unopposed. There's no one here with object. There was one letter of objection. Perhaps that person is listening, but you have cut down that deck substantially. So would this not be an appropriate case? Because, and perhaps Mr. Bellissimo can suggest, or you can, what plan, that there is no FSI variance. We're just coverage. We're giving you a generous coverage for the cabana and pool and all that. To tie it to a plan so that you may have some room in GFA or FSI.
Hi, Mr. Chair. You can do so if you wish. I would say the site plan would make sense to do that, especially as it pertains to setbacks, given that our setback trigger is more to the rear of the property where the family room is. That way, it kind of keeps the setbacks in line, and I suppose coverage too. So I would say that's fair to do so if you wish to proceed with that.
The only reason I suggest is 2 reasons. A, community planning did not comment on the merits. They were looking for a deferral. And secondly, that you don't have an FSI or GFA type variance, so there may be some volume left for you to play with here. So just keep your client honest on this.
Absolutely.
Okay, members, does anyone else have any questions, or is someone ready to make a motion?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer.
Variances requested as revised, appear minor in nature and meet the 4 tests in the Planning Act. So I'll move for approval, and we'll tie it to the site plan regarding the rear yard and front yard setbacks. And that will be subject to transportation conditions.
Okay, is there any urban forestry, or?
I don't see any, no.
There isn't. Okay, thank you. So thank you for that motion, Mr. Palmer. Seconder for that.
Andy Bellissimo.
Thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Okay, thank you, Mr. Zabzuni. Okay, item number 8 has been deferred, and as well as 10, but 9 we decided to hear, correct? So we'll move on to item number 9, 6 Eltham Drive. We have revised highlighted revision sheet. This is construct new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There were 12 variances. There are now 9. 2 of those have been revised. We have a cover letter, revised plans, and the zoning review waiver and supporting materials, and 6 letters of support, and urban forestry requesting conditions 1 and 2. The agent on this application is again Marin Zabzuni.
Hello again. Thank you. I'm Marin Zabzuni at 1140 the Queensway. So this is very similar scenario. It's actually the same planner as before as well. And here we essentially reduced the building envelope in terms of now we comply with the variances in terms of building length, front yard setback, building width, and overall building height. So the massing and the building envelope of the house complies. It's just due to the size of the lot, there's some minor variances still triggered, which are quite typical in the area. It's a developing area, a lot of dwellings. And with that said, I can elaborate further, but I do believe it meets the 4th test given the nature of the variances and the massing of the proposed dwelling.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Zuzumi? Or if not, is someone ready for a motion?
Danny Bellissimo agrees with the presenter that the massing is not affected by these new remissions of 3, 4, and 5. So I'd like to move for approval, the variance finding minor in nature subject to condition by forestry.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. We have a seconder for that, Ms. Alderson. Thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll see you again. Okay, item 10 has been deferred, so we'll move over onto item number 11, 135 Carlingview Drive. This is an application to maintain a vehicle-related use in the Hotel Indigo. A previous Committee of Adjustment application approved variances relating to permitted use. And that previous Committee of Adjustment application in May 2017 approved the vehicle-related use for a period of 5 years, expiring May 25th of this year. And as well as there was an August 2001 application to legalize and maintain location in the hotel parking for the vehicle rental. And planning, this has been is asking as a condition of approval that this vehicle rental establishment be limited to a 1-year period and be limited to an accessory use within the existing hotel. So the speaker on this application is Vikramjit Pani, the owner of the property.
Hi, good morning, committee. Yes, we do know, like, we've been given the permission for 1 year, but the thing is, we wanted to request you that the permission should be given for 5 years instead of 1, because first of all, we've been going through COVID and the business has not been really good. The thing is, like, initially when we had applied for this zoning, we were told that the rezoning cannot be done because it's a place with a hotel, and to have a rezoning done, we would have to get a separate building or a building where there is nothing else, right? So this was the reason they initially did not do rezoning for us. But now we are told that we will be given 1 year of permission and to do rezoning again. But we are confused because the very first time when we were given permission, we were told that rezoning cannot be done.
Yeah, so, you know, I'm just reading, perhaps we can get the planning report up on the board, sir. It's like a catch-22. They're saying that back in 2017, you agreed or it was conditional that you bring an application. You're saying that you can't do that. And now they're saying again, the planner is saying, well, they only want to do it on a short term of 1 year.
Yeah.
Because they want you to bring the zoning bylaw amendment application for a permanent approval. And that's what they're asking for their one condition. But you're saying it's not, can you just repeat that, why it's not possible?
So initially when we applied, we were told that to get a zoning separately for our business, because we are a car rental company, they wanted us to have a separate building, that we cannot get another zoning inside this same hotel. So that was the issue told to us initially, right? So that is again the concern, like now if we do apply for rezoning, that won't be a conflict, that we are in another place right now, operating in another place.
Okay, but this is with respect to this 135 Carlingview within the hotel. Okay, let's see if committee members have any questions or if what they think. So you would like to have this for 5 years, not 1 year. You're not looking.
Yes, please, because it's been COVID. We've been like under a lot of loss. It's for last 3 years we've been just paying everything from our pocket, right? And to get everything done again, it's a very big problem for us. Like, it's just a request from our end.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I have a question.
Members? Yeah.
Sure.
I was going through this application and it looks like you've been in existence. You've been operating there since 2001. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you have
2011.
2011, not 2001.
No, 11. So it's like the second time we are, second or third time we are getting the zoning.
Okay, so that is about 11 years.
I also saw 2001.
No, it's 11.
I thought there were some things that dated back to 2001.
No,
and I'm just curious. Do you have a counter within the hotel? Is that how? And then you. parking outside for the car rentals?
It's like we have a room on the ground floor and it has our own separate counter. It's nothing to do with the hotel. So a person comes into the hotel, they know they have to just turn right, and we have our office inside there. It's like we do not need a lot of space for this. We just need a small office and the place to park our cars. That's it.
So this is a useful service for your hotel guests as well, right?
For hotel, and plus we are very close to the airport, so if somebody just comes here, they can always give us a call. Plus we deal with the big vans, so there are very limited people in Ontario or in Canada who have the 12-seater vans, especially for passenger vans. So this is what we deal in, but the business has been pretty bad for us because of this restrictions at airport and everything. So changing everything and doing everything from scratch would be very hard.
Planning wants you to build your own building, I guess, huh?
Yes, but see, as I said, it won't be possible for us at all to do it. I know we've been in business, but you see, the COVID has struck everybody very hard. So investing in a business is not at all possible. If we can get 5 years of zone permission, maybe next time we can definitely think about it.
And you rent space from the hotel?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify the 2001, you were correct, that I was correct, but that was a decision as to with respect to the location of the hotel parking on the lot, nothing to do with the vehicle rental. So it's on the property, but it had nothing to do with this gentleman's operation.
Okay.
Just wondering if maybe there's something between 1 and 3 years. We recognize he's had a 3-year nightmare with COVID.
Yeah.
And we could take judicial notice.
I was going to say, I was going to actually agree with you, Michael, that would be a frame. So the pandemic actually has affected a lot of small businesses, and I would like to move that we actually approve a 3-year period on this application, if that's agreeable to the committee.
Danny Bellissimo seconds the motion.
Thank you. Very reasonable compromise, I believe. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, sir. Good best of luck, Mr. Panny.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for that.
Okay. Our next application is item number 12, 370 Silverthorn Avenue. It's an application to construct a new front porch with 2 small variances. And we have, I don't believe anything before us. We have a cover letter, revised plans, imposing the revised site plan. Planning is looking for condition of approval that be constructed substantially in accordance with the site plan submitted April 25th. And that's all we have. One speaker, Mohammed Solomon, the owner of the property. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, committee and staff. My name is Mohammed Salman. I'm the applicant, owner, and resident at the property, and just want to clarify that the porch being constructed is a replacement to an existing one. So it's not an addition; it's a replacement. I'm also downsizing the porch. So what is being proposed is slightly smaller and is more proportionate with an already small footprint of a building. I have two minor variances that have been identified by city staff. The first one is about the setback for the side yard setback.
We need a full presentation from you. We can see these 2 small variances. What I suggest is the committee see if they have any questions, but I just want to make, are you okay with the condition the community planning wants?
Yes, I am, and I had a fruitful discussion with the planning staff since I have revised and showed the use of permeable pavers. It doesn't change the hard and soft surfaces, but it does, in essence, and improve the permeability and the functional. So,
yes. Okay, thank you for that. So, yeah, we can. Committee members see the 2 variances.
Danny Bellissimo would like to weigh in. Yeah, I find porches are an essential part of homes at the entranceway. So I find the variance minor in nature, move for approval, subject to the condition by planning.
You just want to make sure Ms. Alderson was put her hand up to move this.
No. I'm happy to second. I was going to put forward a motion, but I'm happy to.
Okay, all in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, sir. You have your approval.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 13 is 19 VICKSON Court. It's for a detached dwelling with an attached garage. We have, again, as usual, a revised agenda page. There were 8 variances. There are now 6. 2 of those have been revised. So we have revised plans, revised zoning waiver, the applicant's revisions. Transportation has no objection. And we have urban forestry looking for conditions 1 and 2. And yeah, in the addition materials, I think we have a second revised. I'm not just clear if the agent can perhaps go through to see if there are any changes to that. And the agent is Daniel Vincani, the agent for the applicant. Welcome, sir.
Mr. Chair and members, Daniel is present on the call and is unmuted. Go ahead, Daniel. Go ahead, Daniel.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Vincani.
You're the only speaker on that. I don't think we need a fulsome presentation, but if you could please go through just the second revised agenda and advise if there's any further changes in the first revised in our original package.
So this for the latest zoning review is that the examiner did revisit the minimum requirement front yard setback. Previous not accounted the bump out on the neighbor wall on the peak of the rest of the wall. So requirement was greater when we actually had to be less than that.
Okay, staff, can we get the latest one in the additional materials up? I just want to, I believe there is a one additional change perhaps to that. I think there are now 3 have been revised instead of just 2 in the original.
So that would be item number 2. Instead of the minimum required front yard setback is 8.74, it's 8.52. But our variance of 8.02 still remains the same. It's just that the minimum requirement should be considered.
Okay, you're sort of breaking up there, sir, but are you at 8.02 or you come down, you made it larger from 8 I don't have it in front of me and I can't see the screen on the additional materials if that's what's up?
I
just have to look closer, sorry. It's still 8.02, right? But there's a bump out?
That is correct. It's 8.02.
Yes, sir. We having trouble. I think we're losing you here.
So I think what he was trying to say is for minor variance number 2.
Yes.
Which isn't captured here, is the requirement should be 8.52, not 8.74. And that's shown on the revised zoning review. I'm not sure if there are other additional revisions from what was on the first revision. Yeah, the GFA is slightly different. So
Okay.
it would be on the second revision page.
Okay, so what we have, that's properly before us. It still says that the requirement is 8.74. I see what you have, not point, and that he's at 8.02. But has the requirement gone down?
Yes, to 8.52 instead of 8.74. And
Okay.
then variance number 6 looks like instead of the 3 meters, it should be 2.7. So that's captured in the second revision.
Okay. Okay. So, members, any further questions? Or is someone ready to weigh in with a motion? And there is.
I do have a question of staff, if I could. I know that transportation is now okay with the driveway width, but since it is excessive, it's exceeding the zoning bylaw, I'm wondering if we can impose a green standard on it and impose permeable pavers for that, since we're supposed to be making green decisions as a committee. I'm just wondering if we can impose that condition or not.
Sorry, Transportation Services hasn't asked for that. That's up to the committee if you feel that's a.
Can the committee ask for it and can they be held to it?
For the private portion, you can impose that condition.
Okay. Just asking that.
Danny Belisman would like to weigh in for motion if there are no further questions. Laura, I find that they're not required for any soft landscaping. So in terms of variances, so I think they meet the soft landscaping requirement of their building. So I don't think permeable
Pavers are in order here in this one. Okay.
Because it's not a variance for soft landscaping. So I think they're meeting the soft landscaping requirements, but we don't see that variance. So I'd like to move for approval based on the additional material, second revision. That is item 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 8 as submitted. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconded by.
Happy to second that.
Okay, all in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Neil, you're okay? Thank you. Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Vincani. And item 14 has been deferred, so we'll move on to item number 15, which is 58 14th Street. It's a detached dwelling with attached garage, 5 variances, urban forestry looking for condition 3, and the additional materials, we have a revised notice, revised agenda cover page. Perhaps we can get that up on the board. That's the revised one, showing the most current aspect of the application, showing elimination of variances. And the speaker is Kamaldeep Sangha, as well as we have the neighbor at 55 15th Street across the street. Sorry, must be behind the property.
Mr. Chair and members, I'd like to bring to your attention that the area resident at 55 15th Street is not present on the call at this time.
Okay, that's appropriate to know that at this point. So we know that there's only going to be one speaker, the agent for the applicant.
Correct.
Welcome, sir.
Good morning. I'm the owner of 58 14th Street, and this application is to build a larger home on the site for myself and my family.
Okay, so your name is Kamaldeep Sangha.
Kamaldeep, yes, that's perfect.
Okay, welcome,
Thank
welcome.
you.
So yeah, we have the 5 variances. There's no one here with any concerns, and do you want to give us and we have nothing really on fire other than the urban forestry condition, but if you want to walk through the changes you've made. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we've had a number of discussions with planning, who are supportive of the changes. So what we're looking at is that the floor area, the percentage is now 0.8. So that's item 1. And that the floor area is now 210.35, down from 311.36 previously. So it's item 2 is removed because we've met all the zoning requirements, and the house, we've reduced the height of the roof line to comply with that. Items 3 and 4 would like the following corrections. So this item is the previous item was about the length of the home. These 3 and 4 is related to the height of the home, which is now reduced from 8.27 meters to 8.03 meters. And item, the last item related to the eaves. With the soffits, we do meet the application does meet the zoning requirements. So it's the eaves that are a little, which account for the 0.15 meter variance request. And these reflect the the needs of the home. As we all know, we're experiencing increased rain events, and we want to make sure that our homes are protected as possible, adequately from future rain events. So that's one of the reasons why we're requesting that very minor variance. And I think that is, I think that's it.
Yeah, you're fine with the urban forestry condition.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So let's see if members have any questions for you, if someone's ready to weigh in with a motion.
Anybody listening is ready to weigh in for motion if there's no further questions.
Okay, go.
I reviewed the design and I find that the design is very, very compact in nature. And in the waiver we just received in the additional material, I find that the applicant has made some considerable reductions in the variances. So I'd like to move for approval of the variances as presented to us in the revised additional material of the waiver. Conditional on, there was no conditions. Oh, sorry, was there a condition? 15.
Yeah, urban forestry 3.
Urban forestry condition, yes, there is.
Second for Mr. Bellissimo's motion. Not seeing anyone here. I'm going to change my layout here in grid. Okay, seconder for that. Ms. Reddick, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you. You have your approval.
Thank you. Thank you.
Enjoy your new house after the appeal period. Thank you. Good luck with the construction.
Thank you.
Okay, our next application is item number 16, 3 HERZBERG Gardens. It's to permit a rooming house within the existing semi-detached dwelling. And all we have on this is looks like a previous decisions in 2004, 2010 from Tribute Communities, I guess, in conjunction with the development of this this row of houses, but not related to this application. We have before us, I don't think we have anything. And the speaker is, we do have 3 speakers. We have Amir Roba, the agent for the applicant, as well as we have 2 neighbors at 275 and 263 Murray Ross Parkway.
Mr. Chair and members, I'd like to bring to your attention at this moment that the Bruno family at 275 Murray Road Parkway are not present on the call at this time. Again, they are not present.
Okay, thank you, sir. So we do have the one additional speaker, 263. So
correct.
Welcome to the agent, Amir Rabah. Pronouncing that properly.
Amir, go ahead. You're unmuted.
Hi.
If you could speak louder, that'd be great.
Hi, good morning. My name is Amir Roba from YAJ Studio on behalf of the property owner.
Right. So here the case, we have one variance that the proposed rooming house is not permitted in the residential zone. We don't have anything on file from community planning or anyone else. So can you please tell us why this is appropriate? And I'm surprised we haven't heard from community planning on this.
No,
with them.
I just took over this project very recently. There was another agent in our office that was working on it, and he's no longer with the company, so I just took over. And when I glanced quickly, so I think there is an issue with the zoning notes that we received during the zoning review, because they said that their only comment is rooming house is not permitted in this property, which is not correct. So the zone allow rooming house, but with specific conditions. And as long as the property or the lot meet the condition, then rooming house is allowed. But they generalized their comment and saying the rooming house is not permitted. Now, this has been an ongoing situation for at least 4 or 5 years, back and forth. Fire department allowed it, building department said no. So I don't know how we should tackle this issue.
Well, I don't know if committee members have. I'm just, there's just this bold statement, it's not permitted. That's the variance. We have nothing from community planning or from city legal or anywhere else. and you're telling us you just took over the file. So,
Yeah, but
you want referral, or you want to proceed to like? I'm just wondering if
I have a few questions actually,
Okay,
if I
but
could.
go ahead.
Is it currently being used as a rooming house? Is that the current situation?
yes, it's been like this for at least 4 or 5 years.
Okay, that was one question. And are you working with an agency to place people? How are they vetted? Like, I'm just curious. Do they just apply? I mean, how are these folks that are living there? How are they vetted, or are they placed there by an agency?
That I am not sure. The property owner should have better information about.
Sorry, he's on the file. First of all, I don't even think it's a necessary planning issue, with all due respect.
No, I understand that. I'm just curious.
But your question raised a very interesting point, Ms. Alderson, is that given it's already being used for that purpose, I see no harm, no prejudice to the applicant in a referral to allow us to get an opinion, or him to get updated with the file, community planning to let us know what their situation is. There's no hardship to anyone because it's already being used for that. So I would suggest it should be deferred, because it's not gonna, if it takes an additional month or 3 to get back on and we have more information, no one's harmed. And
there are no letters of objection on file right now, so.
Exactly, including the other semi-detached.
Yeah, okay.
So let's, I don't wanna, jump in here, but in that case, very good question. I think it should be deferred. Just a question for we do have one other party on the line, actually, so we will hear from that other party at 260.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I just remembered that. So in any event, we can hear from that person, but I'm thinking it's maybe an appropriate situation for a deferral. So let's hear from the neighbor at 263 Murray Ross Parkway.
Ye Ming Zhang, go ahead.
Looks like that's Murray Raw property behind the property.
Mi Zhang, go ahead. Mr. Chair, the area resident is unmuted, and they are able to speak at this time. Mr. or Mrs. Zhang, go ahead. Again,
okay, anyway, we're talking about it. Looks like that's a street behind, but let's go back to Amir or Bob about the issue of the deferral. Is that a problem if you just knew on the file and it was already being used for that purpose for 4 years?
No, I am actually in favor of deferring the file.
Okay. Members, Mr. Bellissimo?
Yes, I agree with you. Normally planning comments on issues related to rooming houses, an existing rooming house. So I agree. I would like to move for deferral to we get better information on this file.
Yes, I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, matters deferred. We'll be back to deal with this on the merits at some point. Okay,
thank you,
Mr. Buck. And if the Zangs are listening, it's being deferred. Okay, next application is item number 1771 MACLEOD Street. This is to maintain existing house, to maintain the existing attached carport on the south side of the existing dwelling. We have support, total of 10 letters of support, nothing else whatsoever on this file. Frank Montano is the agent.
Frank, go ahead.
Morning, Mr. Chair and members. Frank Montano.
Okay, sir, very straightforward application. You got a lot of support, no other comments from anyone. Anything you'd like to add?
Pretty straightforward.
Yes, sir. Okay, let's see if anyone has any questions or someone's ready to weigh in. Ms.
Very
Alderson?
quick. Yeah, very quick question. In Street View, it looks like a black in front of a garage. Is that the current condition?
It's exactly what it is.
So it's a frame, like a carport frame, but there's there's nothing over top, no canopy over top, nothing?
No, what there is like a polycarbonate plexiglass type material.
So it's clear, but there is some shelter.
It's sheltered, yes. It's roofed over with this polycarbonate material.
And the garage is still behind that?
Yes.
Okay. It's odd looking at it, that's all. Okay.
Hey, but this one has a quick question. So this is an existing carport, and yet the drawings show all kinds of structural details. Are those structural details?
Yes, the reason being, yes, it's as built. The reason being is instead of a wood frame, they chose to do this in steel. And there were a lot of connection issues after when they started. So that's when we actually got involved, and we hired an engineer and everything to make sure that everything is safe and sound with this.
So it's existing, it's existing, but you're doing repairs to support the structure.
Exactly.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Or someone ready for a motion?
Any of this would like to move for approval for the variances are minor in nature.
I would like to second that because there are 9 form letters of support on that application.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Mr. Montano. Okay, item number 18 is 62 Princeton Road. It's an application to for a 2-story rear addition, a 2nd-story addition above the existing dwelling, a new front porch, and a rear yard deck. And it's a standard addition package. And there are 3 variances. We have urban forestry condition number 1, and I don't believe we have anything else. David Morse is the agent for the applicant. We have a cover letter from Bousfelds, and Mr. Morse is the speaker.
It should be Mike D'Oliveira for item 18.
Oh, sorry, I was looking at 19. Right, Mike D'Oliveira. Sorry, everyone. All we have is urban forestry condition number 1.
Mr. Chair, members, we're back to that quote-unquote mic problem we had earlier, in that there is a person on a call with simply just the name Mike. I have unmuted them, and they can speak. Mike, if this is you, Mike D'Oliveira, could you just say hey and confirm?
Hi, yes, I'm Mike D'Oliveira. I'm here representing 62 Princeton Road. And
okay, I just want to clarify here, there are some materials here. We do have 4 letters of support. We have precedent decisions in the area been provided by the agent on that, and we have urban forestry number 1 condition. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, yes, so as you mentioned, we do have the 4 letters of support. We've gone through the research. Our application fits quite well with similar approvals that have been given by the committee in the past in the area. In terms of our FSI, although we are asking for 0.62 floor space index, this is really only 47.16 square meters or 0.12 FSI in relation to the permitted. We're also well below other approvals in the area, such as 70 Princeton Road, which was approved for 0.75 on a similar size lot. And there's some other examples beyond that as well.
You have your chart, very helpful, you provided. So let's just see if members have any questions for you, or if someone's ready for a motion.
I'm ready for a motion if no one has any questions.
Okay.
I believe this application meets the 4 tests. It's certainly desirable based on the street view, and I move for approval subject to urban forestry condition number 1.
Okay, thank you. Second for that.
Seconds the motion.
Okay, all in favor? Another unanimous approval.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, our next application is item number 19, 367 Royal York Road. Application to construct a 2-story rear addition and a 2nd-story addition above the existing dwelling, and to convert the 1st story of the existing dwelling into a sales center with 2 dwelling units on the 2nd story. We have a revised notice sheet. Variance 1 has been eliminated. The sales center use variance. And so we have remaining 3 variances. We have revised plans and a revised zoning review, and in the additional materials, we actually have a revised notice, and we can get that. That also includes a change to the purpose of the application, as shown up on the screen. And the agent for this one is David Morris from Bousfields, and we have his cover letter and an arborist report. Welcome.
Good morning, David Morris of Bousfields Inc., planning consultant at 367 Royal York Road. So if you'd like me to give a short presentation, I can. Otherwise, I can just open it up to questions.
Okay, I think it's pretty straightforward here. Maybe just so it's a sales center no longer, you don't need that variance anymore, or that's not going to be part of the use, or it is the part of the use, not a required variance.
We spoke with the planning department and we decided to remove the variance for the sales center use, so we're not seeking that.
Okay. But you still have the wording commercial use.
That's right, yes. So it is
yeah.
within the CR zone, and it does allow commercial uses.
Yeah, that's probably good because it's a more flexibility. You can change it and still maintain within that. Otherwise, when you had a temporary sales office, you move out, you'd have to come back. So
yeah.
Okay, anyone else have any questions for David Morris, or is someone ready to weigh in? I don't see anyone up on the screen, so you have to, don't just put up your hand, please. There we go.
I'm ready to move a motion. The variance is requested as revised or minor and meet the 4 tests in the Planning Act, so I'll move for approval, subject to forestry condition number 2.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Second, Mr. Palmer's.
I would second a friendly amendment. There's a revised revision page because we got there's an additional compared to the first revision that we got in the earlier material. So it's the addition material called revised revision page. Thank you.
Right, is where the purpose changed. Yep. Okay.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
The amendment, all in favor? Unanimous. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. We'll see you again. Okay, and our last application of the morning, and it is 18 Villa Road. And we have a revised agenda page showing highlighted changes. In this case, variance 1 has been reduced, the floor space index from 0.74 to 0.7. So otherwise remains the same. We have the revised plans. We have the Long Branch neighborhood characteristic checklist been completed. We have planning weighing in with conditions of approval that it be built substantially in accordance with their planning memo. And we have 12 letters of support. Forestry is looking to deny variance 5 with respect to front yard landscaping. We have a letter of objection from 15 and the impact on 22 Villa next door. I assume there is no 20 Villa, including letters from Laura Lee Terry on with images enclosure. So we have 6 opposition letters on that. And this is with respect to in the additional materials, we have 2 additional letters of support and 3 other letters of opposition. So the speakers on this application are Ian Cunha, the agent, as well as Laura Terrian from 22 Villa Road next door, Judy Gibson, Andy Choles from the Long Branch Association, Steve Vella from 42 Ash, and Robbie Jordan from 25 39th Street.
Mr. Chair and members, as a quick note, Christine Machado will be filling in for Andy in this case.
Okay.
But we'll bring it to yeah, I'll bring it to your attention.
And all the other parties I meant are registered to are with us, correct?
When I did a mic check earlier in the day, everyone else was present, correct?
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's turn it over to Mr. Cunha for a presentation.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Ian Cunha representing the owners of 18 Villa Road. We're asking permission to remove the front enclosed porch and replace it with a small open porch, extend the back of the house approximately 4 meters, and to build a second-story addition over the existing and proposed first floor. This addition at the rear is slightly bigger than the existing wood deck that exists there now, and no wood deck is proposed because of the slope of the land. We do not require to provide a wood deck. The two variances that there are 5 variances, 3 are minor and are due to the existing condition of the house. The other 2 variances, FSI, we agreed with planning staff to reduce the length of the building by 3 feet, to reduce the floor space index to 69.5%, which gives us a modest sized house of approximately 2,100 square feet. Variance 3, in regards to the front yard landscaping, even though we don't meet the required percentage, we are still improving a situation since we are removing the enclosed porch and we need the driveway to create a parking space. In conclusion, we are working on an existing house with a family that lives in the house and just wants to stay in Long Branch. We designed this project using the Long Branch Performance Standard Checklist, which was reviewed and approved by planning staff. I spoke with forestry regarding their concern, and basically it was not regarding trees, but planting space on the boulevard. This house, first of all, the lot is a small lot, and the original house was built very close to the front property line. So it doesn't give us a lot of space to be able to do planting on our own. There is a large boulevard that belongs to the city that should be able to provide additional space for trees if required. And as you can tell from the houses next door that were built recently, the front yard setback is quite a bit larger than ours is. I know that there are a number of letters of opposition, but there's also quite a number of supporting letters. And out of those, at least 4 of them are actually of people that live on the street. Our proposal is to improve the living conditions for this family. It is not a developer who's trying to turn a profit. Long Branch is unfortunately turning into an area that homeowners no longer have a say on their own properties. Even the design of this house had to be changed so that the finishes of the exterior could not be what my clients wanted, but what the Long Branch design criteria requires. I believe we meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act, and we ask this committee to grant us this application.
Okay, thank you, sir. Just to clarify, yeah, there are many letters of opposition, many letters of support. It appears, as we're going to hear from the neighbors, that there is significant impact alleged on the property next door, which is a special property. And we have a lot of information about that. So let's, first of all, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Cunha before we hear from the neighbors? Okay, and if not, we're going to start hearing from the neighbors. And the first one on the list is Laura Terrian at 22 Villa Road, which I understand is right next door and is the property most affected, and with respect to most of the letters on the impact on this property. Okay, so Laura Terrian, if we can get a presentation from you, please.
Yes, good morning.
Perhaps you can get your letter up on the board, staff, while...
Oh, if you want to. I'm speaking something different than my letter.
Okay, but at least we'll have it up there to members just before us.
Okay.
But sure, go ahead. You have about 5 minutes to make your presentation.
Thank you. I am Laura Lee Terrian, and I'm the owner of 22 Villa Road that is adjacent to the proposed development at 18 Villa Road. I am a member of the Métis Nation of Ontario, and I have ancestral ties to Drummond Island. My spirit name is Yellow Flicker. I am Deer Clan. I have an inherent right to access land for culture and ceremony, and I'm a community-minded person. I would like this application to be declined for the following reasons. This land has been in my family for over 30 years. We have restored it from 2 layers of driveway to an indigenous food forest, orchard, and pollinator garden. The healthy eastern white cedar boundary and neighbor trees on my property are heritage trees planted shortly after my home was built in the mid-1940s. Conifers can live for more than 400 years and still be less than 37 centimeters in diameter. And my approval is required before any removal or destruction of a boundary tree. The trees and root system will be destroyed by any excavation at the eastern lot line of 22 Villa Road. The cedars have a right to grow there, and I have a relationship with them as an Indigenous person. This application does not meet the 4 tests. City's official plan is not being maintained. The applicants are not preserving mature trees or providing suitable environments for trees on their plan. They have already decreased the long branch tree canopy by cutting down a mature fruit tree of 20 centimeters in diameter on the weekend of April 9th. I was served notice of this hearing on April 14th. I am requesting that this committee require a city tree be planted in front of 18 Villa Road to offset the canopy that has already been destroyed by the applicants. The city's zoning bylaw is not maintained. Regular zoning should be upheld to protect my Indigenous food forest from destruction. A tree protection zone of 1.5 to 2 meters should be required. We have a natural garden exemption issued by the City of Toronto approving this pollinator garden. The applicants are requesting no side yard setback. Without the appropriate side yard setbacks, the sacred habitat we have conserved for birds, monarchs, red squirrels, trilliums, milkweed, gooseberries, blueberries, and blackberries will be destroyed by excavation and scaffolding that will be erected completely on my land on top of all of these sacred living things. There should not be any scaffolding or building materials on my property. The variances requested are not minor. 0 side yard setbacks put my property at risk from extreme weather and flooding. It is well known that the backyard at 18 Villa Road floods each spring. Doubling the FSI will create mass and shade, will make us feel like we are living in a prison. A massive wall would loom over my family and my garden where there was once life and beauty. This proposal is not appropriate for the development of the land and/or building. As per the City of Toronto's first Reconciliation Action Plan, destroying our cedars will negatively impact the spirituality, health, and well-being of my family and our community members. These trees are sacred to our culture. Cedar is one of the 4 medicines. Access to medicines and land is not easy in Toronto. We provide a sacred space for community members. Sharing with the community is an important part of our culture. I believe that the neighbors who signed letters of support did not know or understand the negative impacts that these proposed changes would have to my property and for the community. For example, why didn't they leave the images of the cedar dripline canopy on their plans like other applicants today did? If the applicants spoke to me truthfully about their plans, I would have advised them about our cultural and spiritual connection to those trees and our food forest. I could have told them that we have permission from the City of Toronto for this use of land. There was no transparency. The truth about the impact that this development will have on my property was not disclosed to me. I suspect that the others who were not told the truth as well. I have requested information about the location of the HVAC and sump pump drain twice from the applicants, and they have refused to provide these details. In the event that this committee is still considering approval of this application, I would ask that all letters of support be voided in the interest of truth and transparency. Voiding these letters will protect the good names of my community members who supported this application without full disclosure.
Mr. Chairman, just to advise the speakers at 5.5 minutes.
We should allow them to make fully informed decisions. I have 2 questions. Thank you for your consideration, all my relations.
Thank you. Thank you for that presentation. We have your your written materials as well, which the committee members have reviewed. Okay, does anyone have any questions for Ms. Therrien before we move on to the next speaker? Okay, in that case, I believe the LBNA like to be at the end, so I'll hold on. The next speaker is Stephen Vella at 42 Ash Crescent.
Go ahead, Stephen. Stephen, you're unmuted if you'd like to go ahead. Mr. Chair and members, I'd like to bring to your attention around 10:30, Stephen was having some problems connecting. I'm wondering if we're still having those problems. Stephen, you're unmuted, so go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so why don't we hear from, and we can, while you try to connect with him, we can hear from, there's a Robbie Jordan at 2539th Street, registered to speak as well.
Yeah,
And
we'll
after
do
that. We have the
perfect, Mr. Chair. We'll do Robbie Jordan in a moment. Stephen, if you could log out, log back in, and authorize your mic, we'll make sure we get you a chance, a fair shot to speak here. And in the meantime, Mr. Chair, like I said, we'll unmute Robbie Jordan now.
Awesome.
Hello, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name, as you know, is Robbie Jordan. I live at 2539th Street, which is a couple of blocks away from the house in question. I'm calling in. I wanted to speak because just last summer we finished a Toronto local appeal body case with my neighbor trying to sever the lot and build very large homes, and the variances associated with that. One of the main reasons it was the build was refused was because of a very large tree of mine, which is very close to the lot lines, which would have been likely fatally damaged. Subsequently, what happened after that, the neighbors moved in. I have a good relationship with them. However, last fall, I took a vacation, and when I came back, they removed a privacy hedge we had in the front. They've subsequently removed every single tree that they possibly could in the yard. And I took another vacation. There's a lesson here. I took another vacation about 3 weeks ago, and I came back to them cutting down a very large birch tree. Whether they had a permit or not, I have no idea. But they have removed every tree they possibly have been able to remove since moving into the property. And I think this emphasizes the importance of enforcing tree protection bylaws with boundary trees and large trees at every possible opportunity, because the canopy has been significantly reduced. My privacy has been significantly reduced. In the interest of being good neighbors and getting along with these people, I certainly wouldn't complain. But I just thought the committee should know that subsequent actions that can happen that reduce the tree canopies because of the protected tree, the size requirement for a protected tree. I have many trees. I probably have 20 trees in my backyard. Many trees that are well over 20 years old because I didn't plant them, and we've been here that long. They would not be protected at all because of their size. But they're how old to get the size to be protected? They'd have to be 30, 40, 50 years. So I just wanted to bring that attention to your attention, and thank you for the opportunity to let me speak today.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the speaker? Okay, if not, let's see if we're able to reach Mr. Vella, 42 Ash Crescent.
Hello.
One moment, Mr. Chair. We'll try and bring him up. Go ahead, Stephen.
Hello. Do you hear my phone number?
We can. What I'm going to do, give me 1 second, Mr. Chair and members. I'm going to fix this here.
Okay. We're getting feedback.
Okay, Stephen, go ahead.
Hello.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes? Oh, thank you.
Go ahead.
No, I don't think I could say anything more powerful than Mrs. Therrien just did. Wow, that's pretty amazing. My wife and I have lived in Long Branch since 1995 on Ash Crescent and also Alder Crescent. and we've raised 3 children in a 3-bedroom, 100-year-old home with an FSI of 0.19. That's about 1,200 square feet. The reason I am here is our neighbors who our neighborhood's house was bought by a developer that did not care if his plans would destroy our 100-year-old silver maple. Well, he did not build anything. So it is important that neighbors work together and stick together. This letter is in opposition to the proposed variance requested by the applicant, as the applicant's variances do not meet the 4 tests and the application does not support the official plan. An FSI, I know they lowered it, but an FSI of 0.7 when the maximum FSI is 0.35 is a 200% variance. The variances are supposed to be minor. A request for 200% of the maximum allowed is not minor. Merriam-Webster defines minor as inferior in importance, size, or degree, comparatively unimportant. 200% more than the maximum allowed does not meet that definition. Side yard setback variances of 0.18 on the west side when the minimum permitted is 0.9. This is a reduction of more than 4 times. Not only is it an unreasonable position for the neighbor at a maximum variance, it is also dangerous for the homeowner. How will emergency responders get into the backyard? And how will the neighbor's trees even survive? As a good and respectful neighbor, the applicant should draw plans to have a side yard setback far enough to protect the trees and include tree protection. There is no requirement that all development must be 0.9 meters from the line. It is the closest the bylaw will allow, and the applicant is asking permission to make it closer. They should not receive it. As you can see from the drawings in figure 3 for 18 Villa, will extend significantly in front of 16 Villa, past where it is today. In addition to the building itself extending, the applicant is looking for variances for less soft landscaping, bringing the building closer to the street, and the variance for the front yard platform. If you look at photos 1 and 2, you can see that the property at 18 Villa is already closer to the street than 14 and 16 Villa, but it is only a small bungalow today and not so intrusive. Now picture the building as having the 200% FSI variance. This increases the massing and scale beyond anything on the street. This does not meet the requirements of neighborhoods 4.1.5 CF and G. This request is for a looming massive property overlooking the wartime bungalows that are on the street. The proposal must follow neighborhoods CF and G, which is prevailing heights, massing scale, density, and dwelling type of the nearby residential properties, prevailing setbacks of buildings from the street or streets, prevailing patterns of rear and side yard setbacks, and landscape open space. And it also must pass the 4 tests. Maintain the general intent and purpose of the OP, maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning, be desirable, and be minor. OP 3121, preserving existing mature trees wherever possible and incorporating them into the development site. This is possible, just not done. Preserving and enhancing the urban forest by providing suitable growing environment for trees, which it's not doing. Increasing the tree canopy coverage, it's removing tree canopy. And it's definitely not regulating any injury. This proposed development is killing the neighbor's mature, healthy trees that support native wildlife and encourage the endangered red squirrel. The trees were on the property long before the applicant purchased it. The trees are not a surprise to the applicant. The applicant is asking for a variance to build on the property line, essentially digging up the trees. Yes, the trees are not a protected size, but not all trees grow at the same rate as the neighbor has stated. The trees are mature and healthy, and there is no requirement to build on the property line. The applicant is asking for permission to do so. There are other options for the applicant and ways to meet the general intent and purpose of the OP. The applicant included does not maintain the intent and purpose, as it does not preserve the existing mature trees or enhance the urban forest. The 4 tests require all variances to be minor, and the requested variances are major. The Committee of Adjustment must not approve the development on this property until the applicant can create a development plan that supports the official plan policy and neighborhood policies. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, perfect. 5 minutes. Any questions? Any questions for Mr. Vella, or we'll move on to the next speaker? Okay, next speaker is Judy Gibson from the Long Branch Neighborhood Association.
Thank you. If I could ask staff to please put up the letter that I submitted on April 28th.
It's on the way.
Thank you. So my name is Judy Gibson. I'm the chair of the Long Branch Neighborhood Association Tree Canopy Preservation and Enhancement Committee. Thank you for listening to me today. I just want to emphasize that we're not objecting to the owner at 18 Villa renovating their home, but we are objecting to the variances in front of the committee today. And we would have actually liked to have seen this application deferred for more discussion between the neighbors, so to see if the issues could be resolved. But obviously, since that we're here, there continue to be issues with the variances that are before this committee. Their impact on the mature cedars that you've heard are so important to the neighbor at 22 Villa. They're healthy, they're important. The environment they create, the biodiversity and the wildlife, and the contribution they make to the urban forest of Long Branch and the loss of them is unacceptable. And we believe that this application fails the 4 tests. It's not ready. More work needs to be done. And therefore, we're asking that what's in front of you today be refused. I also want to point out, and I believe the chair pointed out, that there is a refusal from Urban Forestry for variance number 5. And they're saying that the experts are saying there is insufficient soft landscaping to support a new tree out front. So that is obviously a big issue for us as far as growing, maintaining and growing the urban forest. So forestry is not satisfied with this application. And you've heard the particular importance that to the next door neighbor about the white cedars. So it's a direct result of the variances. These white cedars are mature, healthy trees. The neighbor has cultivated, carefully constructed, and maintained a unique habitat that they're an important part of to support the local birds and wildlife. And it does appear that at least the southernmost cedar that's closest to the house is likely a boundary tree and would require the permission of the owner at 22 Villa to injure it. And you've heard her perspective that she would not give that permission at this point. So that does raise a barrier for the application. According to the city data, if you go on to the next page 3, please, in my, and sorry, just while the picture is up, so half of those cedars would be gone that you see there as a result, at least half. And if you go to page 3, please, you'll see the impact of what's been happening in Long Branch, where we have experienced the greatest tree canopy loss in all of Ward 3. And applications such as this that are taking down mature trees are a direct result of it. So we're saying that the applicant, of course, can build, but we're asking them to build respectfully so that those white cedars are maintained. And the official plan policy, if you go down a bit more, does speak to everything that we've been speaking about. So this plan does, the application in front of you does fail Toronto's official plan policies. It fails, in particular, official plan policy 2.3.1. If you just go down a bit more, healthy neighborhoods. This one speaks to environmental sustainability. And sorry, I can't see it on the screen yet. You need to go down a bit more on this page, please. Where it says environmental sustainability will be promoted in neighborhoods, investing in naturalization and landscaping improvements, tree planting, and preservation. And then if we go to official plan policy 3.1.2.1E, it's preserving existing mature trees wherever possible and incorporating them into the development site. And these cedar trees at 70 years old are mature trees. And then official plan policy 3.4 in the natural environment speaks to we must not only protect the existing urban forest, but also enhance it. And protecting Toronto's natural environment and urban forest should not be compromised by growth, insensitivity to the needs of the environment, or neglect. And then official plan policy 3.4.1D speaks to preserving and enhancing the urban forest by providing a suitable growing environment for trees and increasing tree canopy coverage and diversity, especially of long-lived native and large shade trees. And our understanding is that white cedars can live to be 300 years old. So these certainly are long-lived and they are native. City Council has adopted an item to declare a climate emergency. this application is not supporting that. It fails the 4 tests for a minor variance. So we therefore request that in its current form, this application be please refused. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Judy Gibson? And I can't see anyone's. There we go. And if none, we'll go to the last speaker, Randy Scholes, also from the Long Branch Neighborhood Association.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members, as a reminder, the area resident is Christine Mercado. Christine, go ahead.
Right.
Oh, right. Christine is speaking for today. Okay.
Right.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. My name is Christine Mercado, and I'm the chair of the Long Branch Neighborhood Association. And if I could just ask staff to pull up my letter and go directly to page 4. As Ms. Gibson said, we would have supported a deferral of this application because there is room for this application to be added to the fabric of the neighborhood, but we are where we are. Right now, our position is now a refusal based on high FSI, which is almost double the standard, and maintaining the substandard side yard setbacks to the immediate neighbor. We're also objecting to the impact to the public realm by the introduction of an integral garage on a property that is less than 6 minutes from higher order transit. So page number 4 is actually the next page. If you can go down, thank you so much. So our objections are based in the official plan policy 4.1.5, starting off with C, which is prevailing scale and density of nearby residential properties, E, which covers setbacks, I, which is conservation of landscapes. And further clarification of these official plan policies are provided in the Long Branch Neighborhood Character Guidelines on page number 35 of the Long Branch Character Defining Conditions. So they aren't meant to be a barrier, they're meant to be a clarification of the official plan policies. So going into the defining conditions, there's a problem with the condition B, which is the ground-related first floor. C, maintaining landscaping and mature trees. D, porosity between buildings. And E, building depth. So if you go back to page 3, which would have been the FSI map, we have created this map using city data and clarified it using impact data and walking the neighborhood. And that includes an examination of 165 lots. The area is zoned RM, and so it's residential multiples, and the prevailing character is mixed housing that is in scale with the lot. So according to city data, the prevailing FSI of the immediate and geographical neighborhood is 0.35, which is signified by the light blue in the map. And out of 165 lots, 136 lots are less than 30 that are less than the 0.35. The OPL also makes room for more than one defining characteristic if it occurs in significant numbers. And we've captured the larger homes in dark blue, which are above 0.35, but the data shows that the upper ceiling is less than 0.61 FSI. So further exceptions are defined in the orange, and that will be an FSI between 0.59 and 0.71. So there has been changes that where they've made the houses smaller, and they've come out at a 0.69, which would be a 0.7. And our data shows that there are only 4 exceptions that are close to what the applicant is asking for, even at this reduced number. The 4 exceptions quantitatively and qualitatively is not a significant number in this area of 165 lots. And all the exceptions, including the 4, were built before the approval of the Long Branch Character Guidelines by City Council, and no FSI this high has been approved in the study area since. The deployment of this large FSI does push back into the rear yard setback, which is impacting the neighbor's garden and ultimately the quality of life. And this is also an area that's not static. So we have 3 settlements in principle at TLAB. So we are finding solutions that observe policy while addressing the needs of the applicant. So moving forward into setbacks and garages, the impression of the setbacks on the street are also contained in the character of the street. So staff can pan through pages 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. The side drives, the parking solutions, the porosity between the buildings is addressed through side drives. or parking in the rear, which is prevailing on Villa. So there are 13 lots with side drives and parking in the rear. The introduction of an integral garage reduces plantable space in the front yard and the opportunity for a new street tree. And if you could just stop there at 14 and 16 Villa. And the challenge is shown by 14 and 16 Villa, where the impact of an integral garage and a site setback have reduced the chances for a green infrastructure and trees, replacing it with a gray hardscape, all 2 to 3 blocks from higher order transit in the form of a streetcar and a GO. So the introduction of increased parking so close to higher order transit, I think it's probably not a particularly forward-thinking aspect of this home. So the Long Branch Neighborhood Character Guidelines encourages existing parking solutions be maintained and the ground-related front porches over garages that deaden the streetscape. And what you would be doing is replicating this deadening effect of the integral garage that we're already experiencing at 14 and 16 Villa. We do acknowledge that there is a reduction in FSI. However, they are still out of line with the prevailing homes in the immediate context and still remain at an unacceptable level. So we respectfully ask for a refusal of this application as cumulatively the variances are not minor and it does not meet the intent and purpose of the bylaws or official plan. Therefore, it does not meet the 4 tests. And just a quick address for the letters of support. We do go through and try and vet and take a look at what the concerns are. And although there is support on the street of Villa, there's also a lot of support that spans out into Mississauga and Oakville. And so I respectfully request that the letters that should be considered as letters of support are people that actually live in the neighborhood. So I'm open to questions if there are any. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Mercado, for that presentation. And I guess that's the last of the speakers. Just before I turn it over to Mr. Cunha to respond to the concerns, I'm just very happy that after our first speaker, Laura Therrien, spoke so eloquently on the issues of the indigenous culture and spirituality and the efforts made to remediate the property next door and the impact on the property, the special impact on the property next door due to what it's being used for and the indigenous cultures and spirituality and everything else has been mentioned. And all the other speakers spoke obviously of what we're dealing with here is planning issues. We don't get into the constitutionality and those issues. So I'm glad that there's a lot of issues because that's what we're here to enforce is the actual Planning Act. I believe we have a lot of material on that. So I'll put it over to Mr. Cunha to respond to the many planning issues been raised by the speakers.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I've been here listening and I really wouldn't be able to answer the owner of number 22 Villa Road because it's just something that I don't think it's planning related and it's really difficult to answer. As far as her concerns, the idea is that we're not going to do any scaffolding on her property. The idea is to do a shoring system where we will be able to do the excavation without touching her property. Because we knew right from day one that permission would not be granted. As far as the FSI, yeah, sure, we can always look at the FSI. So an FSI of 35% would allow us to build a house about 1,000 square feet. Today, that's not logical to build a house that's 1,000 square feet. We have to, it's a combination of the FSI and the size of the house. This house is still going to be at 2,100 square feet, which is a very modest size home. As far as the parking, if the city of Toronto does not care that we provide parking, they should remove from the zoning requirements a parking space. Right now, there's no parking whatsoever on this property. So what it does is forces the people to park the car on the street. Looking at all of the zoning requirements, we do not ask for a height requirement, variance. Actually, the top of our roof is still going to be about 40 centimeters lower than the house next door, number 16 and number 14. We provide the rear yard and front yard setbacks that's required. We've maintained a large rear yard, fully landscaped. We don't have a length or depth of building variance. The front yard landscaping, the house is built. It's not like we're building a new house that we can control how far from the front property line the house can be. The only thing that we're doing that we're actually improving the situation is that the enclosed porch is being removed. We propose to do everything possible for the next door neighbor, number 22, not to be impacted by our excavation. We're also, if ponding is a huge issue in our property, that is something that we'll be able to address it during the building permit application stage. I think that it's true that there were people that supported this application that were also not from the Etobicoke area, but there's also people in opposition that are nowhere near this house. They just oppose because they are Long Branch citizens, which is fine. But if we're looking at people that actually live on the street, 4 of them supported this application. So I believe that this is a good application. Forestry, like I said, I called them up and asked them if there was any issues regarding any trees. They said no. They just wanted a little bit more space at the front to be able to plant the tree. These cedars were never brought up to us by the forestry department. In any case, we have no intention of damaging these cedars. So unless there's any questions that you might need from me, that's my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Questions from Mr. Cunha or any of the other speakers at this juncture?
I do have a question regarding the white cedars at the back. To me, it's inevitable that these cedars are going to be damaged. I mean, I don't see how there's any way around it based on the FSI and the build to lot line situation. Would you be amenable to replacing those cedars should the construction result in damaging them?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There would be no issue whatsoever. On my client, we're going to do everything possible for that not to happen, even going with the shoring plan done by the engineer, so that the soil from the next door neighbor will not collapse onto our property. But if the case that came up that a cedar would be damaged, absolutely we'll replace it.
Okay, and you're okay with urban forestry condition number 3, which is to build or to actually build put another tree in. What's the word I'm looking for?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
We have
I think probably on the front yard. They're looking for the front yard.
Yes, absolutely.
A tree to be inserted there. Okay.
Absolutely. Would be.
All right. So those were just my 2 questions that I had.
Okay. Any further questions for any of the speakers at this point? And if no more questions, is someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
Danny Bellissimo would like to weigh in with a motion if there are no further questions. I find the presentations a well thought out presentation. I don't think I've heard such well presented people here in this committee. I find that the application fails the 4 tests, and I find that the variances are not minor in nature, specifically variance number 1, where 0.35 is required, is going for 0.7, that's almost double. Where the side setback is supposed to be 36 inches, I'm converting to imperial, and it's going to be provided 7-inch side setback. I find that's too close. And I find that the eaves to be at 0 setback, which is almost impossible to build from without going to a neighbor's property is also too close and raises questions because even a surveyor would never get that eavesdrop location correct. 0 side setbacks on eaves just don't work in my mind. So I'm moving for a refusal of the variances.
Okay, motion to refuse from Mr. Bellissimo. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Ms. Reddick, thank you. Any comment? Okay, all in favor? The application is unanimously refused. Thank you, Mr. Cunha. Thank you to the neighbors who weighed in on this application. It is now 12:41. We will now break for lunch, and Madam Bertosic, Secretary Treasurer, we guess you want to return at 2 p.m. for the afternoon session.
Sure, that works.
Perhaps you can advise the public when they can, I guess they're not on the line yet for 1 o'clock in terms of when you're going to start the sound check.
They'll put something on the screen so that people can see that we're joining later.
You'll put up a notice when the sound check will start. So we'll reconvene at 2 p.m. to do the afternoon session. And have an enjoyable lunch, everyone.